A lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago. I've changed for the better this time. I thought I would never be fine. I strive just to say I'm alright, and for the first time in a long time I'm alright. I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago. Going back, I'm not falling. I'll push all my chips and go all in. I'll bet on myself, you keep stalling. I hear destiny and it's calling. I'll keep my head up high through the downs and lows, and we're all going life. Still nobody knows, but I'ma choose what's right and take what comes and goes. And ain't no one in life holding me back no more. I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago. Back a year ago.
Step one, wake up, brother, gon' rise with the sun. Step two, get some good, some food in you. Step three, you grow hard about what you wanna be. Step four, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood in circulation. One step at a time, yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take them. I try to pick one thought, have some concentration. And if I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 So life ain't easy, yo. I think there's a reason, though. Ups and downs, just like every different season, yo. Sometimes I'm high, other times I'm barely breathing, though. You always gotta fight and hide from the demons, yo. Negative thoughts are poison, they ride. Head full of flies, so here come the clouds. They'll never stop unless I can swap all the bad for the good in my head when I'm lost. Yeah, so I'ma fake it till I make it. Positive thoughts are overtaken. I got patience, one day at a time. That's how you operate a cadence. So flow, you grow, you show yourself a foundation. Stay away from all the shit that causes temptation. I know that I like to do it cause it's sensation. I live my life in my head like a narration. Don't expect greatness, do my best, man, I'll take it. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Wake up, really go around and be a good day. Get some good, some people really go around. Step 3, grow hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing. What you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
I've seen a
Good morning, guys. How the hello are you? How is everybody? How was your weekend? Happy Monday. How is everybody? Let's see. Let's get to the top of the chat. Okay. Good morning, Dax. Good morning, Glam. Good morning, Steph. Good morning, Lotus. Oh, almost then, not semester. That was a funny typo. How was your guys' weekend? It is now shorts weather here where I live, and I'm so happy. We're kind of getting there, Glam. We're still, I think we have one day this week that's still supposed to be in the 50s, and then other than that, it's like mid 60s to 70s. So we're almost there. Good morning, Diva. Hi, Eggy Head. Good morning. Yeah, see, we're still struggling too, Dax. And this in the nights are still really cold. My husband's been leaving the windows open at night, so we wake up like freezing. But if we don't do that, then it takes all day for the house to cool down. Good morning, Bree. Lacey woke me up and said, "Wake up! Today is going to be a good day. Go see Danny's crew." Hi, Bree. Oh my gosh, you guys, did anybody? I don't know if you guys watch her other than with me, but did anybody catch? Holy moly, MGL Jr. was like everywhere last night. I was recording constantly. Oh, yay, Diva. That sounds nice. Good morning, sunshine. Where is summer? Yeah, see, I'm the same way, Dax. I like to be cold at night. Sunshine, I want to find us a deep dive that's more recent, but you know what? Nothing has happened, so there really isn't. Um, I really have not seen anything new in the case, which is so sad. Oh my gosh, Diva. She was on skis. Let me think. I had I think three, maybe even four videos I had to put up on the archive channel. Um, she was on skis. She had her own, I think twice, but she is getting a dog to foster, which has me quite concerned, I must say, because it's a chow. And you remember Valley Girl, her bestie that she, did this, like dog rescue and stuff with. Well, Valley Girl has had this dog, Valley Girl is Michelle's dog trainer. Valley Girl has had this dog for 8 months and can't get it trained. So now Michelle is getting it for a weekend. That's see me too, Glam. I keep telling my husband we have to find somewhere warmer to go. Good morning, trolling dish. Good morning, it's your girl. Um, I did see that MFW was in the yes. She's back with the one that all that stuff happened. See, I haven't been keeping up on her. And I will say I do like her. That she's kind of like my guilty pleasure. I like watching MFW. No, I didn't. So hasn't Voices kind of done a complete, what would you call it, 180? Like did it okay, so she was in contact with Dawn and Candace, mostly Dawn. And then there was kind of, good morning, Jarella. Then there was kind of like a falling out there where she basically felt that they were guilty. Are they on speaking terms again? Is she now back on their side? Peri peritonitis, not sepsis. Well, that's better news, isn't it, Sunshine, than sepsis? I know sepsis is awful. Oh, hey, I didn't know we could put, I didn't even know I could put chat up on screen on Melon. Look at that. Stepping up, Melon. They were making out in the hospital bed, and his hands were a little too roaming for me all up her leg. Oh my gosh. I think it's Twitch that she was on, Bree. She said she's been talking to Don. Oh, really? I can't I can't grasp why he still talks to her. I know like back when, the case was fresh and everything, I used to watch her. And good morning, AR. Good morning, Daisy. I used to watch Voices back, in the beginning of the case and stuff, and I know that she had contact with him, and she had kind of like exclusives of him on her channel and all that. But then it seemed like she kind of turned on him, and she was like, "Dawn, tell the truth," like basically saying he had something to do with it or knows something or whatever. Um, so I thought then she was like kind of done after that. Yeah, Twitch. I actually just found her yesterday on Twitch. Um, because I realized that's where everybody was watching her from. And like I said, I hate to say it, but she's kind of my guilty pleasure. I do like to watch her. Dudley asked, "Oh, you know what? I think I did see not the entire thing, but I think I saw a clip of it, Sunshine. I had never seen this Dudley. See, that's new. Like I said, because I hadn't, you know, I stopped keeping up on it just because it was too sad for me seeing them, you know, exploit that case and everything. I couldn't. She said the contents of her stomach was leaking into her system, and I was like, ugh, I know. I'll tell you what, you guys, more and more we're seeing that on this platform, especially the alcohol. I mean, there's all kinds of addictions, of course, but guys, if you're going to drink, don't go live. Summer is in the well, there's speculation, Dax, because Dawn is a contractor. So, speculation is going to be everywhere. And I still say, let the law enforcement handle it. Like, if they are guilty, they'll take them down. They just need to build the case. Yeah, Sunshine. The thing is I don't feel like she wants to quit right now. She could be, Dax. I mean, if that were the case, it could have been in another, in one of the houses they built or whatever. Um, I don't think there was time for that though. Law enforcement rarely solves cold cases, less than 50%. Let those MFers keep talking. Well, I just, you know what? I wish like I said before, I do not care for Chris McDonough, but I really wish they would let the Cold Case Foundation take it over. That may be the only hope they have of getting anywhere. Yeah, I've heard, Diva, it can be deadly to quit drinking when you're, you know, too far into the addiction. And I don't think people realize that either, that, you can get that kind of withdrawal in the, what is it called, DDTs or whatever. God, Dax, I hope so too. That could be that's like the only thing we can really hope for, is that maybe somebody that wanted a child took her, that somebody that's going to, treat her well and she'll have a good childhood. Oh, really, AR, from trying to get sober? Yes, I totally agree, Sunshine. And that's where I decided I did not care for him. He's just so, I can't stand arrogance. Nobody's better than anybody else. I don't care how good of an education you can have. I don't care how good of a career you have, how big of a house, how new of a car. I don't care about any of that. That does not make you a better human being than others. And he is so dang smug and arrogant. Well, for one thing, Diva, who didn't he go on? He went on a channel that shall remain nameless. He went on a channel that shall remain nameless, that was an enemy of hers when they were fighting. That kind of says all I need to know about him, right? Yeah, that would be the best case scenario. You can go into severe withdrawal. You can have a heart attack or a stroke. Um, the withdrawal from alcohol is really bad if you're like really in the throes of the addiction. I have a feeling he maybe seemed like it, and she shut the camera off for the night, maybe so he wouldn't notice. Also, because alcohol is socially acceptable, it goes unnoticed if the person is functional. And if you're trying to get sober, I mean, I don't know about where you guys are, but here they're selling alcohol in gas stations. They're selling them selling it in convenience stores. Not to mention, there's a bar on every other corner. Like it is so in your face. I think that has to be one of the hardest ones to get clean and sober from, as far as that. Like it's in your face everywhere you go. You can't escape it. Organ failure from dependence on it. Yeah, it's dangerous. And a lot of people don't realize that. Yeah, Glam. My husband is a recovering alcoholic, and I always ask if we get invited to, picnics or parties or anything like that. I always ask if there's going to be alcohol, because honestly, I don't want that life back. I'm not going to, set my husband up to go somewhere that it's going to be in his face. He would be okay, probably, but I don't feel like that's there. You don't know anything about MFW, Bree, or about the Summerwell stuff? Grand mal seizures, severe depression that can lead to self harm, psychosis, hallucinations. typically of people who are still alive. Severely high blood pressure that can trigger strokes. I will say, when my husband got sober, he didn't go through withdrawals like that, and we were shocked because he was heavy into his addiction. I was having allergy attacks from certain drinks, and people acted like me not drinking was weird. Yeah, right, Glam? I think that that's a lot, that happens a lot in our culture. See, I luckily, I have alcoholism in my family, but thank God I just don't like the taste of alcohol. I even mixed drinks, I can taste the smallest amount of alcohol if you put it in one of my drinks, and I can't choke it down. Ugh. Once in a while, I'll crave a Coors Light though, and I can totally do shots better than I can do like mixed drinks and stuff because a shot, it's like, down the hatch, you're done. The sipping, I can't. I don't know about MFW and know just a little about Summer Wells from here. Bree, it's funny because I always assume everybody knows about MFW because so many people cover her. And even more so now with Foodie, being a bust. I have clients who end up in ICU when we could not stabilize their blood pressure. Diabetics in particular are in serious danger. Their blood sugar and staph infections are bad. Plus, that if they're diabetic, that's like a double whammy, like to their organs, the alcohol and the diabetes. I love my daily wine, but I had to stop because I got pregnant and the headaches that followed was awful. I can do wine. I can do wine. I can do like wine coolers, but still I can't drink till I feel it. It takes a lot, first of all, for me to get drunk, and I can't choke it down that long for me to get drunk. But like I said, give me shots like Goldschlager or Fireball, I'm good. Good morning, Bella. Good morning, Leah. I just cut off everyone who drank at all for many years. Lots of people don't drink at all. Yeah, we need to find those friends, Bella. I feel like everywhere we go, they're drinking. Anything we get invited to, like parties, picnics, all that stuff. Good morning, Hannibal. Yeah, Bree, I don't know why, but I know all the horrible stuff people say about her and everything else. But like I said, she's like my guilty pleasure. She's one that I watch. I know she's a train wreck, but I don't know. There's something about her that I enjoy watching her. All these years, Glam, I thought I liked red wine better, and I don't. I like the white wine better. Good for you, Bree. That's awesome. My husband has 10 months, and life is boring. Oh, it's going to be one of those mornings I came into my office. It was freezing. I turned the heat on. Now I'm hot. Good morning, Annalyn. I hope you had a good weekend. I have the links page pulled up. Let me get it going. Oh, shit. Hold on, guys. Dang it. I just spilled coffee on my freaking laptop. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Ah! Guys, it can't ruin this laptop. I will be dead. I'm panicking. Oh no! Who said that about the sick dog? Anna Lynn. Aw, is the dog okay? Guys, what do I do? I think I caught it in time before it like seeped into the keyboard or anything. I'm such a klutz. Stand by. I'm here. Oh, that has me so nervous. If we have to go to the other computer to stream it at all, guys, we're going to be in trouble because there's a lot I'm not going to be able to do because that thing will not hold up. Shake the keyboard a bit on a towel. I did that right away, so hopefully that works. This is my expensive one, my gaming one that I bought from my son that I would not be able to afford to get again. And after all that, I'm going to need a refill on my coffee eventually here because it's almost gone now. All right. Sorry, guys. Hold on. Let me catch up. Oh, my goodness, Anna Lynn. That had to have smelled awful, too. But open. Yeah, I did. That's what I did, AR. As soon as it happened, luckily I had a towel, like a cleaning rag, and I grabbed that right away and tipped it upside down. Doesn't appear to be. Let me try to type. Yeah, it's typing and everything. Oh my gosh, hopefully it's okay. Or did I stress you out? Sorry. All right, back to links. Let me get AR Dax. You guys, our AR is putting out content now. I actually, even if you're scared to death of spiders, I actually recommend you watch her videos because AR, God love her, she has a way of somehow showing like the connection between bugs and humans. I swear to God, she's like I would be scared to death of tarantulas, but when she shows them, you can tell. Yes, she's posting videos of her tarantulas and stuff, Brie. And when she shows them, you can see like the one, I don't even know if it was one she posted or one she just sent to us in Discord or whatever, but she was like saying that the tarantula likes to hold hands, and it literally was like grabbing onto her finger with its little claw or whatever. Oh, well, I'm glad he's okay, Annalyn. How scary. Thank you, Glam. Yes, I love that. See, and normally I would be scared to death of them, but just like she had AR had a pet praying mantis. Just found a praying mantis out, side and kept it and made a pet out of it. And it was the cutest thing. That mantis was attached to her, and it was so cute. The doc said he's just old. He'll be 12. Aww. Oh my gosh, not me, Glam. You know what though? It's gotten to the point where I almost am less afraid of her tarantulas than I am of like a normal house spider. It's those little ones that move fast that creep me out. Absolutely, Bree. Let me add it to the list. I think I already have your. Uh-oh. What did I just do? All right, free. I'll just copy it from the chat, Bree. All right, and then I'm going to post it and make sure that it's right. Okay, Bree, can you click that? Make sure that it's the right link because I just added it to the links page. Guys, I know I need to update that too in the mod chat, and I'll do that. Oh my gosh, Diva, was it like a poisonous spider? See, I don't think we have poisonous ones here. It worked? Okay, good, Bree. All right, AR, I added her TikTok onto the links page. And I'll put that updated one in the mod chat. The only bug I truly hate with a passion are, ugh, I don't blame you. I love that you love bugs, AR. I'm opposite. Save the spiders who eat mosquitoes. Cockroaches have, I missed it. Cockroaches have plug-in sonic repellents that work well. Ugh. Yeah, I've never had to deal with cockroaches, thank God. I saw a big millipede in the mountains. I don't know what you call a big millipede. It's the same size of a finger and a foot long. No, it wasn't poisonous ones. We do have those in my state, though. Oh, I know my friend got bit by a brown recluse, and it was scary looking, her leg after that. And it took a long time for it to clear. The mosquitoes they are. You know what's weird is I used to get eaten alive. And I always said it was because I was diabetic and my blood was sweet. But the past couple years, they seem to leave me alone and they bother my husband. And my husband never used to get bit. He has the thickest skin. I always thought, well, they can't even bite through that, but nope. And they got him good already this year, somehow underneath his like shirt and waist on his pants. Oh, my brother has a huge hole in his leg from a brown. Ugh. Good morning, Sassy. Flying cockroaches are so disrespectful, so aggressive. The tree ones are just. When I was visiting, I think I told this story before, but I was visiting friends in Oklahoma, and we were sitting out on their deck in the backyard playing cards, and a cicada, um, like landed like right in front of my friend on the table, right in front of him, and it startled him, and so he like flipped like his arms up, and his chair fell backwards off of the deck. And anybody that knows me knows I hate blood, I hate anything gross, puke, anything like that. And so I'm standing there, literally standing like probably 10 feet away, hunched down, and I'm like, are you okay? Should I call Tony? Are you all right? Because I was so afraid there was blood involved. He's like, could you get any farther away from me? Not even kidding. If I've got some extra crickets, I'll feed the random basement spiders or ones on my outdoor plants. Aw, AR. Ugh. Those brown recluses can like literally leave a hole where they injected their stuff into you. I just kill anything that's not a human or a pet. I'm kind of the same way, Bella. I don't mind certain things, but stay out of my house. Oh, really, Annalyn? See, we're in the country, so if it rains, if it's damp at all, the fireflies are all over the place. Morning, a touch of happiness. Happy Monday. I catch and release except mosquitoes. I'm allergic to, my daughter is allergic to wasps. And I'm not entirely sure if she's allergic to bees. Do they kind of go hand in hand? She had such a reaction to a wasp a couple years ago. And I remember the doctor told us that it literally could take like up to like 2 years for the allergic reaction to completely clear. And it was the weirdest thing. Every time after that allergic reaction, every time she'd go into water, like go swimming at the lake or anything like that, she would bust out in hives everywhere. And it lasted probably a good year, year and a half before it stopped doing that. Depending on what the human or pet is doing, they can catch these ants too. I make my own bug spray for mosquitoes in the summer. I use essential oils and witch hazel. My husband swears by it, but also you don't have that nasty like off, chemically smell on you and stuff, and it works well. It's funny because Mr. AR does not like insects or crawly things at all. He will swat first and look after. But him coming home and saying hello to the tarantulas, aw. All right, whose touch of happiness is it? We know so many happies now. Is it Josh? Is it King? And can I just say I love the fact that you guys have channels after the fact, like, naming them after the fact that you're a happy person. We need more happy people. Josh. Okay. Hi, Josh. Good morning. Hope you had a good weekend. Yeah, I use, oh gosh, I'll have to look up my recipe glam. I do buy the citronella essential oil, but I can't remember what the other ones are that I put in it. I have to look up the recipe, but it definitely works. And then the witch hazel is the base, and witch hazel in itself is a bug repellent. So I'm sure that's what helps it too. So if you put, you combine the witch hazel with the oils. Yeah, but Bree, that's a feat in itself that you got to 1,000 subs on TikTok and can go live. I'll totally come in when you're live on there. Citronella smell makes you itch. There's other ones. I know, oh crap, what's the one big essential oil? See, I don't like to get mine from like the companies that it's like an MLM where they sell the essential oils. I don't like to order through there. Plus, they're way higher. Um, I usually order like online or I go to our Whole Foods store. Dax. I don't know why they don't like getting their ears cleaned. I would think it would feel so good afterwards. Our big dog, we have to always clean his ears. I'm getting the hiccups, guys. Sorry. Oh. All right, guys. I don't need to pull it up. I already have it up. I'm still floored by this chat being on the screen. I haven't used Melon in forever. Um, so I have the third part of Summer Wells pulled up for us. I wish that Stephanie and Derek would do a new one though. Josh, guys, is happiest guy. That's who that is, and I can vouch for him. He truly is the happiest guy. I swear, Dax, my mini dachshund, she knows. All I have to do is I use the those cotton like makeup pads, and I swear all I have to do is grab one of them and she takes off. She always knows that it's like for her. All right, I'm gonna start this.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Crime Week.
They're not supposed to be that smart, Dax. They're not supposed to outsmart us.
Weekly. I'm Stephanie Harlowe.
And I'm Derek Levasseur.
So right now we are launching into our third and final part of the Summer Wells series, and I'm not sure how everybody out there is feeling right now, but I don't feel great about this. And I want to go into today's episode sort of looking at the extraneous kind of variables, like the what could have happened, because I think it's pretty clear, besides Derek and I feeling instinctually that probably Summer's parents know more than they're saying. I think we can say that safely, that we feel like there's something going on there that we don't know about, and there's pieces that are missing, and there's connections that aren't happening. And it's not really as simple and cut and dry as, Candace and Don Wells have made it seem to be. I think we can all agree on that. So we're going to kind of look outside of that box today and see, is it possible that Summer was abducted by some random stranger? Is it possible she wandered off? Is it possible that something happened besides her parents?
Yeah, Josh, Bree is in Discord too. So if you just want to put your TikTok into the Dammit chat for Bree, she'll add you.
Being directly involved, even though I will say one of the theories that what I'm talking about today, when I explore this theory, it still to me leads back to probability being somebody in her family knows something more than they're saying. So I don't know. How are you feeling about this?
Well, whenever we talk about a child, it always sucks because it's like we know at the end of this
Good morning,
episode
Nicole.
tonight there's not going to be the resolution that we all want. But I do agree with you as far as there's some culpability there. We're unaware of how significant it is, but there's something there. And it could be as simple as, let's say we believe that
How was
Summer
your
was
night,
abducted. Well,
Nicole?
that still means that the parents, or at least Candace, is not telling us everything that went on that day because, according to her, Summer was only out of her sight for a couple minutes. Whether that's intentionally misleading us or just a lack of, a sense of time, something doesn't add up based on what she's told us so far, which is why this case is so troubling. And I was reading a bunch of the comments, and there's so many things that were said, but a couple things that were brought up by a few of you were the brothers. I know the brothers were pretty young. I think the oldest at the time, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think was 12.
12, yeah.
So that's not that young. I mean, that's like sixth grade. I still remember a lot of things that happened to me in sixth grade. So I would really like to see what those interviews were like
Yeah,
because
the sleep is
I'm under the
amazing.
impression that the 12-year-old had nothing to do with it. Although I will say some people in the comments said, hey, has anybody looked at the teen boys as well? So I would love to interview them. I would love to interview Candace. There's just something about that day as far as the timeline that we have that leaves a lot to be desired and makes you wonder where the truth really is.
Wait.
At this point, Diva, I think anything is a possibility. That house in general was, um, and I don't mean the house, the physical structure of the house. I mean, Candace and Dawn. Who knows what kind of, things those kids have learned. Yes, Bree. He also won Big Brother 16. He was it New York? I think it was New York. He was a detective. I don't think he's a detective anymore because he does more like TV shows and stuff about it now. And he does this podcast. But yeah, he won Big Brother 16. And it was a good season, like as far as him. Like if you watch it, like he totally controlled that game.
Wait, what teen boys?
So there were people in the comments who said, listen, it's not unheard of to have a teen boy, you know, playing, rough with their little sister or something. And could there have been an accident where they're playing in the woods or something and they push her?
Bella, supposedly that day, if we are to believe all the characters in the story, so that day she took Summer swimming with Hunter. The Hunter is the son of one of her ex friends. So he was with them when they went to the swimming hole. So was Grandma, or people call her Grandis because her name is Candace too. Good morning, Amy. I didn't even know Jersey Shore was back.
Something and her head hits a rock, and now Candace feels this obligation to
I
protect
never
him.
understand that, guys. Why? The only reason I can think of that it could have been an accident and they covered it up or whatever is because they were already being investigated by CPS. That's the only like reasoning I can think behind it to not report it if it was an accident.
Nothing to substantiate that, but I don't say this to cover my ass. It's honestly how I feel. Who am I to rule out anything? I don't know any more than you guys as far as this case is concerned. So for me to sit here and say, when one of you in the comment mentions, well, maybe something happened with the boys and maybe the boys do know more and maybe they were somehow involved with what happened this summer. Who am I to say you're wrong?
No, I get
That's
it.
where I stand on it. So everything's still
True, Bella.
in play, which also is unnerving with this case because we're not even close to what actually happened this summer.
Mm.
There still needs to be more information before we can come to
Good
any
morning,
conclusions or at least
Julianne.
rule out certain scenarios.
So for me, I think it's less likely that something happened with the boys simply because they did bring scent dogs in and they brought cadaver dogs in. And I have to feel like if there had been, even if it had been in the
Okay, so
forest or
there's the
something
answer
on
for
that property.
anybody. I can't remember who asked it Friday. If they had, I think it was Bree or Brandy, if they had cadaver dogs search, and they did.
If Summer's blood had been there, the dogs would have picked it up and this would have been a very different investigation. As far as we know, that didn't happen. Additionally, those boys, they were taken by CPS,
Oh, Bella
just a couple
asked.
of months after.
There you go,
So
Bella.
they're not that old. You say teen boys, but I do believe, like you said, the oldest is 12. So that's still, you're not in like the 14, 15 range where you've kind of like honed your lying skills. And I don't think you could get 3 boys to continue this whole lie and this charade for this long, especially once they're out from under the supervision of their parents, who they'd be afraid of lying about and trying to protect them and things like that. So I think at this point, the authorities probably would have gotten some version of the truth from one of the boys. But
You would think.
yeah, definitely. I mean, they're young, so they're scared and they're sad about what happened to their sister. At least one of them's going to be. And so you'd think that they'd come clean by now. They're not like adults. They're not worried about going to prison. They're not worried about all the shame and the judgment from the outside world. They're kids. They just want to make sure that their sister is okay or that people know what happened. They're not going to keep that hidden for that long, I don't think.
There's a large group of people out there that think Burke was responsible for John Benet's death. And if that's the case, Burke was young when it happened. He hasn't told anybody. And something that happened with Chris when they were doing the interview, the whole going down the stair, that little ladder from the main floor to the basement, that looked pretty dangerous to me too.
Yes.
And I wonder, could it have been a situation where Summer fell and broke her neck, where
Yes.
you wouldn't have any blood? So there's a lot. That's what I'm saying. There's so many scenarios based on the situation, the environment that Summer was in. I'm talking the dad's previous behavior with his sister, the boys being boys, and Candace not being present, and just there's a lot of things that could have happened. It could be as extreme as there was a
Good morning,
homicide that
Lisa.
took place on that property by one of the relatives, or it could be an accident, a horrible accident where Candace felt like she could go to jail for this because of her negligence, and they decided to cover it up. Maybe the boys didn't even know that that happened. Maybe Candace goes down to the basement and finds Summer.
Yeah, that's what I'm leaning more towards. And I think somebody in the comments said when the neighbor heard the scream, they thought it was Candace finding Summer, finding that something had happened to
Good
her,
morning,
finding her
Rossman.
hurt or dead, and then Candace screams. And that's why there was such a big disparity in time between when the neighbor heard the scream and when Candace reported Summer missing. And in that scenario, I would say, yes, if Summer fell down that ladder thing into the basement and broke her neck, Candace finds her, screams, the boys aren't going to know exactly what happened. They're going to believe their mom who said, "Oh, we couldn't find Summer," et cetera, et cetera. Because I'm going to believe a kid any day over an adult in this situation, because adults have things to protect and things to hide, and kids are far more like, upfront and just kind of like earnest when it comes to these things. They have less to protect and less to hide, I think.
I had one more question for you before we dive into it, because there was another listener who DM'd me and asked me about it. At the time when Summer went missing, her head was completely shaven, right?
It was not completely shaven. It was like, very, very short, cropped cut.
Like, just to kind of give reference, like Stranger Things 11 type length.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe a little tad bit longer, but yeah, around that. Yeah, Stranger Things 11 season 1.
Do you think, based on what we know about Candace and her means of carrying out punishment, we talked about the alleged driveway incident. The listener who DM'd me was like, could that have been something where Summer was being punished, her head was shaven by Candace or Don prior to that? Maybe she really didn't want her hair that she looked.
That's why I picked these two, Lotus, because I watch Stephanie a lot, and she's reputable. You can believe it. If she's reporting it, you can believe it. And same with Derek. Like, Derek knows his stuff, so I trusted these two, and I didn't want to deep dive into people that covered it like MGL or JLR or Bullhorn Betty. Like, I didn't want anything from them. I don't trust any of them.
Look beautiful with their hair. With the photo that I used for the first thumbnail, her hair was like shoulder length. It was beautiful. Do you think that could have been an indication of some type of child abuse,
Exactly,
where
Lotus.
they shaved her head as a form of saying, hey, this is what you get for doing whatever she did?
So in my opinion, Summer did not want her head shaved like that. We remember that she wanted to be like Elsa, she wanted to be a princess, et cetera, et cetera. There were some things floating around that maybe Candace, the boys, and Summer had all had head lice. And that's why their heads were all shaved in a very similar close, short haircut.
There was discussion about that too in the beginning. And I think I told you guys there's a picture of her coming back from the lake and everything, where she's in her seat in the back, and there's 2 gallons of milk, and she's kind of leaning on the milk. So people were trying to say that, she was already passed in that photo. But the law enforcement ruled that out, that, she wasn't passed when they showed that photo of her. Which I felt was one of the reaches, not so much the dry drowning, but the fact that she was, that they took a picture of her laying on the milk when she was already passed. I thought that was pretty reachy.
So I don't think it was a punishment, because you can see in previous pictures of the boys even that their hair wasn't that short. So it seemed like everybody's head got like shaved at the same time, except for Don, who will admit himself, like, he's never around and he's never home anyways. So it's Candace who's home with the kids all day long. So if they got lice, she probably got it too. or vice versa, and they all shaved their heads, but they never wanted to admit that because, once again, similar to what you were saying in part one of this, she has this very real need to make everybody think she's a very perfect parent. And, apparently she thinks that her kid's getting lice
Well,
makes her not.
I think the reasoning behind that is because there was already CPS involved. Before Summer went missing, I guess people had already called on them to CPS. So that's where I think it could have gotten, sneaky and lies were told and things were made up or whatever, because she's worried it's going to come back on her with CPS, which didn't matter. They ended up taking the boys anyway.
A good parent, or that there's something wrong with her parenting. I don't know. I can't get in Candace's head. I don't want to.
No. Well, that was really it.
David.
Moral of the story to what you just said, we can lean a certain way, but everything is, I wish it was down to like one or two options, but really it could be anything at this point. It really is, because we're going off the narrative that's given to us by a person of interest. So when the person of interest is someone who's given you the information to base your investigation off of, that's tough.
Yeah,
I
that's
agree.
tough. And, I want to point out within the first months of this investigation, even though law enforcement and the TBI didn't have any evidence that Summer had been abducted, as they continued saying over and over again, they still attempted to cover their bases, and this led them to interviewing all known sex offenders in the area where Summer and her family lived. According to this map of registered sex offenders, there were 19 living in the area. And you can see
Wow.
that they're all different colors. The ones notated by red markings, that means they were convicted of an offense against a child. Now, the one that stands out to me, it has an address that's only a 5-minute drive from 110 Ben Hill Road in
Beth.
Rogersville,
Good
Tennessee,
morning.
where Summer lived with her parents and her 3 older brothers. But as far as I can tell,
I'll tell you
this
what,
guy,
the audio that sticks in my head the most when Candace comes up is the audio of the prank call where she said that they came and got Donnie and they were, sending him back to Utah or whatever. That's the one like video or audio call that really sticks in my head, because Candace sounded legit hysterical. And then it came out that they were just pranking. So that was all an act. And that is what scared me, because if she could act that good, pulling a prank, then you know what I'm thinking.
that this red mark notates, he's the only sex offender who even lived in Rogersville. The other ones kind of lived in like surrounding areas. I personally don't think there is much to the theory that
Exactly,
Summer was
Diva.
targeted by some local sex offender, at least not one who's on the
Me neither.
registry. As I said, law enforcement did interview the ones they knew about, and I'm sure that those interviews included
Oops.
getting and proving an alibi. And once again, even after talking to these sex offenders, they continued to say that there was no evidence she had been abducted. So I can't imagine that any one of these people didn't have an alibi, and the police would kind of like overlook that,
There's that, and then there's also, these are the people who have been identified. There's also individuals who have either not been caught, or it could be a first.
Right. Good morning, Jason. Exactly. Who is worrying about doing a prank when your child is missing?
Time offense. But I'm with you as well. I mean, the way the property's laid out, it's tough to think this could have been a premeditated act. The only world where I see it being the case is if for some reason, which we haven't been able to figure out why, Summer would have went to the main road on her own without being lured out there. Because again, that would require someone to go onto the property without being observed at any point or in time, which is very unlikely. So if we're gonna go down the rabbit hole of Summer was taken, we also have to have an explanation as to why Summer would walk up that driveway by herself or walk through that wooded area that we kind of went through last week, the dog trail there, out to that road. For
AR, you know how spacey I can be and how my mind wanders. Is Derek's eyes hooded eyelids?
for whatever reason, we'd have to be able to explain that first. And we took a shot at it with a couple ideas as to why she might have done that, but they're all very, very unlikely and kind of unreasonable, but not impossible, I guess, if I'm qualifying here.
Okay, so check it out. If we're going with the random pedophile, nefarious person snatches Summer, for me, there's like one of two
That's how mine.
scenarios. It's either a person who knows the family, is friendly with the family, has been to the house before, has had Summer in their sights, has developed like an infatuation with her, has camped outside her house waiting for their perfect moment for God knows how long. Or if we're going to say, well, she may have wandered off and made it to the road herself and somebody picked her up, well, we're going to have to assume she's gotten onto the road and now she's been on the road for an extended period of time, because what are the odds that she just like walks down the hill, steps out onto the road, and then a pedophile's driving by and they're like, oh, well, my lucky day. Here's a little girl right here as soon as I'm driving by. Like, she would have had to have been on that road walking for long enough where somebody, some motorist, some passerby.
AR, this is totally off topic. Sorry, guys. AR. Wait, now I forgot what I was going to tell you. Never mind. I'll think of it.
Would have said, oh, yeah, I saw Summer walking down the road, or I saw a little blonde girl walking down the road, and I thought that was odd. But, now that I heard there's one missing, and none of that's happened. So it either has to be someone the family knows that they're protecting and they're not talking about, who raised red flags possibly, or, she got to the road and was walking and not one person saw her before a pedophile. A pedophile or a nefarious person was the first person who saw her.
I'll look and see if I can find a picture. I'm sure they'll show it at some point again. They're pretty good about showing the land and everything, but they're the only ones on that land. I want to say they have like 100 acres or something. And the way it's set up, it kind of looks like a cul-de-sac. It has like a round, like, driveway that goes all the way around their house. The grandmother had a camper that was right by the house. That was the closest, like, person, neighbor wise or whatever. She was right there on their land with them. But neighbor wise, the neighbors are a little bit away from them.
That neither of those scenarios sounds very likely to me.
And this is why I think there's a lot of people out there who think the parents did it, not just because of what the parents have said or not said, but just because of what you just laid out, which it's very hard to believe that all those things.
Well, that's what who was just saying, voices behind the wall had Dawn on again last night. But that's what Dawn originally had said, like his like prime suspect in his head was that Dudley that he worked with.
Took place, and not a single witness saw Summer walking on that road and then we still have to go back to, why would Summer just start walking down this road by herself for no apparent reason when she had just told her mother allegedly that she was going inside to play with her brothers? Why would she immediately go down into the basement and then out the side?
Plus, they had like 28 dogs. Apparently, people will like come and drop off their dogs and leave them, abandon them. And so they had like 28 dogs that, they basically were feeding, that were living on their property. So, I mean, the only thing I can think is like people are wondering why the dogs hadn't barked or whatever. My thing is, I think the dogs probably did bark, but if you had 28 dogs on your property, you would get to a point where you would ignore the barking. You wouldn't think every time you heard a dog bark, somebody was pulling down your driveway, because there's 28 dogs. There's going to be barking. So I know for me, 100 times a day, those dogs go off, even if it's one or two of them just barking. I would probably most likely ignore it.
Side door down to the main road without telling anyone. So it's a tough pill to swallow. And I think that's why when people go after the parents, I don't think everyone's just saying, oh, you know what? Lack of any other people of interest, it's got to be the parents. No, there's a lot more to it other than the initial stuff. So I don't have any rebuttal. I agree with everything you said.
Yeah, as a parent, I don't want to automatically think it's the parents. These are the last people that I want it to be. So when I'm really leaning in that direction, it's not because I'm a hater or because it's like, oh, you suck, Candace and Don. It's like, I just don't know what else to think at this point. But we're going to go to a quick break because the next section here is going to have me heated, and I'm going to need to prepare myself for that. So we'll be right back. U.S. Department of State 2019 Trafficking in Persons Report. Recruitment, coercion, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of children under the ages of 18 for the purpose of exploitation. Child trafficking happens in all 50 states in the U.S., and according to the U.S. Department of State 2019 Trafficking in Persons Report, 77% of trafficking victims are exploited within their country of residence. What I've come to find is that it's not always strangers who are snatching kids off the street with the intent to sell them into exploitation. Sometimes, and usually, it's the child's own family who are not only facilitating the exploitation of the child, but benefiting from it. More than 200,000 children are victims of sex trafficking in the U.S. every year, and their families or family friends are the most likely to exploit them. For 90% of victims, child trafficking starts in the home, and the average age of a victim of familial trafficking in the U.S. is only 5 years old, while some children are actually victimized from infancy. According to the National Sexual Violence Resource Center, 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys in the United States will be sexually abused before the age of 18. If you think about it, those statistics are staggering. Those numbers are staggering and unacceptable. And only 12% of this.
I can understand that, Amy. Here's how I see that. So if you're leaving your kids home alone, and what did they say? The oldest was 12, 13, something like that. If you're leaving your kids home alone and they're basically, one is in, the oldest one is in charge. So if they left all 3 of the boys home and that oldest one was 12, 13, I know when I was a kid, if my mom left me home at that age, I got the nobody in, nobody out talk. Like, you don't answer the door to anybody and you don't go outside to play. You stay in this house until I get home. Like, that was the rules. So for me, the nobody in, nobody out doesn't sound sketchy to me, because I would say my daughter's going to be 15. I still say that to her. Like, like I said, we're not strict. We're just overprotective. Like, kidnapping, stuff like that scare me to death. With all my kids, I've been that way. So anyway, that's how I look at that nobody in, nobody out thing. Is any response. I'm not saying that Candace and Dawn were perfect parents or good parents even, but that is what I would tell my child and do tell my child. And that's what I was told as a kid too. You don't go out of this house. You don't let anybody in. You do not answer the door. Like, da.
Abuses ever reported to the authorities. Now, a specific person I read a lot about, her name is Kelly Dorr. She was trafficked from the age of 1, and she was continually trafficked by her own father until she was 14 years old. And Kelly.
See, we're really lucky, Bella. None of our kids have ever been left with a sitter because my in-laws live next door to us, and they're the only ones that I've ever let babysit my one aunt I have let a couple times, like when we were really, really in need, like when I was pregnant with my second and stuff. But for the most part, the only ones that ever watched my kids were my in-laws. Good morning, Grateful Life.
His father not only sexually abused his own baby daughter, but allowed his friends to do so as well.
This little girl started to be groomed and abused before her first birthday. You heard me right, her first birthday. This little girl was told from the very beginning that God made her for this, that her body was a vessel for other people's pleasure, that her pain, her humiliation, and her dignity, it did not matter at all. She couldn't comprehend the enormity of the situation around her, but all she knew is that everything that she was told. And she didn't understand why people were around her and didn't save her. They didn't help her. If she told anybody that was what was happening to her or what was going on in her life, she would pay the consequences for it. Other people would pay the consequences for it. But in her mind, and she was absolutely told all the time, everybody knows this is happening. This is happening to you because you deserve it, because you were born for this. So she knew, but she also knew the consequences of talking about it. So she didn't talk.
Same on Lynn. Like I said, we live next to my in-laws, and there's pros and cons of living that close to family. I will say the pros probably outweigh the cons, but anybody you're around that often can get on your nerves.
She buried it deep inside, and she buried it so that the pain numbed
Okay,
her
Julianne,
entire
have a
body.
great day.
She went to preschool. She went to kindergarten, elementary school, and middle school.
No, Patty, I can't. And I mean, I know like Tennessee has a different, climate than what we do. It's warmer there, whatever. But like my thing is, it was just a mattress on the basement floor. Basement floors are cold and damp, at least here. So I don't know about in Tennessee, if basements get like that, but I know here they're not a comfortable place to have a mattress on a floor.
Every single day she interacted with peers.
What
She
are
was
you
in front of
doing?
people
Come
every
here.
single day. But she
What are you
knew
doing, baby?
that they didn't need to know the secret she had, because after all of her friends were doing it.
So that was Kelly in that clip. And when she was talking about this girl who was abused from the age of 1, she's talking about herself. She explains.
They were down there too, Bella. Um, like the way Candace referred to it was like, this is Summer's bedroom, this is our bedroom. There was no wall to separate it at all. Summer's quote unquote room was like in the corner of the basement, and then like 5-6 feet over was Candace and Dawn's. But I think somebody said that Summer slept with Candace and Dawn. I don't know, don't quote me on that. I'm not positive, but I believe I heard that.
This life that she had, and it really struck me because we often think like, oh, if this was happening to a kid, they
That's
would say
exactly who it
something,
was,
right?
AR.
But it's not that easy. Familial sex trafficking is much more common than we know because it is insidious. It's hidden and kept secret, and it often starts at such a young age
Brain hole
that the child
gland.
grows up believing this is just how life is. And they're being told this by trusted adults, by
Thank you,
parents and
Huda.
family members, the people who are supposed to teach them how the world works and what their place in the world is. Like Kelly was saying, she was told that she was made for this, that she was made to provide pleasure to these adult men, and this was her purpose in the world, and that this was happening to all her friends and all the other kids.
Which again, I'm not throwing shade. A lot of people utilize the family bed. My kids, all three, slept in our bed until they basically decided, they had their own rooms, they had their own beds. So basically, once they decided they wanted, their own space, whatever, I would say probably by maybe 6, at least by 6, they were out of our bed and into their own.
Just nobody talked about it, and it was something to be ashamed of, but this was her place in the world, and this is what she was created for. Can you imagine being told that as a
Aw,
small child,
Bella.
how destructive that is to the
Thank
psyche,
God
to
you
your
didn't
brain,
get
to your
her.
heart, to your soul? And that's why it's so insidious, because if you have bad people, bad trusted adults, bad parents who teach a
David,
child that
that's what I was saying last week. I haven't heard or seen anything of Robin. Is she still standing by them? Is the church still standing by them?
the world works in this twisted and perverted way, and that their place in the world is to be hurt and abused and robbed of any semblance of innocence. That's what they believe. That's what they learn.
It's a horrible story, and I know that Kelly's not the only one who's gone through this. It's terrible. I'm kind of speechless every time I hear it, and it's not the first time I've heard a story like this, but there's really not much more to be said than what Kelly just said in that little clip. It's terrible. As I try to relate it to Summer's situation, kind of sound like a broken record here as far as like, well, I don't think it's plausible. I don't think it's likely, but it's can't rule it out definitively. All I can say is my gut tells me that's not the case here. But what does that mean, right? That's just my gut from the limited amount of interviews that I've seen from the family members. This could have been occurring between.
Yeah, I would say it was probably a little probably past 6 for my daughter, but not much because I remember thinking I thought she would be in our bed for another year or two when she decided not to. But she was the youngest. She was the baby, and like you guys know, my boys are so much older than her. So I kind of wanted to hang on to the baby.
A small group of individuals. It may explain some things as far as discrepancies with the times. So I can't say, oh, no,
I don't
absolutely.
think it was such a bad place down there, David, as far as like them to play. Well, it is dark down there. It's very dark. They didn't seem to have much light down there, so I can't imagine my kids playing down there, in the cold and dark and damp. But the church is still standing by them. That's interesting. Then there's the swing outside. It is so dangerous that Robin Lane's daughter swung on it. See, I'm a country girl, David. That swing does not look horrible to me, but kids do a lot in the country that you would never see kids doing in town. So, I mean, my kids had like a rope swing that they would swing across it's still there actually, that they will swing across our creek in the back. Kids in the country find all kinds of stuff to occupy them, and a lot of times it's dangerous.
Absolutely not possible. Maybe I'm just starting to lean towards something else, which we'll obviously give our final thoughts at the end of the episode. But I don't think that's what was happening here. Although, who am I to say for sure it wasn't?
Well, let's turn our attention to specifically Tennessee and narrow the field of vision for a minute.
Good morning. Well, the last year, the TBI Human Trafficking Unit, take a look at this, conducted 13 undercover operations, including several in East Tennessee. More than 130 people were arrested. On average, 85 minors are trafficked in the state every single month.
It's like cancer, it knows no boundaries.
Across 33 counties in East Tennessee,
Lots of times folks are shocked and surprised.
Brenna Zachariah says this underreported crime is more common than you may think.
Hi,
We have
Izzy.
worked
Good
with
morning.
clients from the youngest age of 3 all the way up to 60.
Last year, the Community Coalition Against Human Trafficking had 300 reports in East Tennessee. This year, they already have 85 and predict more are on the way. Zachariah, an educator with the coalition, says it's not like what you see in movies or TV shows.
It's actually the complete opposite. So lots of times victims are targeted or exploited by someone that they didn't know. They're related to this person, they're in a relationship with this person, making it the perfect crime.
The perfect crime with a lifelong impact on its victims.
Over a 2-day period beginning on July 14th, 2022, authorities in Tennessee placed several decoy advertisements on websites known to be linked to prostitution, and the focus of the operation was to identify people who were actively seeking to engage in commercial sex acts with minors. 6 people were arrested during this operation. This month, or the month before that, 12 men were arrested in Nashville, Tennessee, in an undercover sex trafficking operation, and these men were also looking to purchase time with minors for sex acts. A 2020 article on WJHL.com reports, quote, "In more rural areas, especially East Tennessee, we see a lot of familial trafficking in disadvantaged areas where there's a lot of drug addiction and poverty. It is such a cash flow generator that it is constantly growing. As a trafficker, you have a product which would be that trafficking victim. You sell that trafficking victim, but they don't go away. You can sell that victim 10 times a day for 5 days a week." End quote. Gabby Smith, the head of Grow Free Tennessee with the Community Coalition Against Human Trafficking, gave a specific example, saying, quote, "A little boy who would be sent to the landlord's house, and the landlord was taking advantage of the child. Of course, the child didn't know why or what for. Upon investigation, it came out that the mother was receiving money off her rent." End quote. So the mother sending the little boy over to the landlord's house, knowing that the landlord's abusing the child so that she can get money off of her rent. The Community Coalition Against Human Trafficking told CBS News 8, quote, "In reality, what we see here in eastern Tennessee, particularly when we talk about kids experiencing trafficking, is a crime that's happening in their own home, the most common form of human trafficking for our kids."
Yes, Patty. And you know what? My kids grew up with like go-karts and dirt bikes and stuff like that. And my husband started them on dirt bikes, really young motorbikes. Like my younger son was 4, my oldest son was 5. We introduced my daughter at like probably 5 because she was smaller. Um, and I swear, when they first started riding, I would go inside. My husband would have to deal with it because it just gave me too much anxiety. I was a city girl. I didn't grow up in the country, so I hadn't seen all that.
Kids here in eastern Tennessee is familial trafficking, which means their family member is the trafficker. There's a really close correlation in the opiate epidemic. But when we talk about familial trafficking, you're talking about to cover for basic costs in that home. So it might be for drugs, it might be for food, it might be clothing, it might be housing, it might be a job opportunity, it might be access to medical care or access to dental care for individuals in the home. This is oftentimes not necessarily a money-making
Well, and it wasn't it wasn't a basement that, like, I relate it kind of to my home that I grew up in. That basement was like really dark, really damp. It really was not like a basement where you would put a bedroom or something like that. And I think that's where the it was odd. You know what I mean? The basement was not clean. You could just tell it was dark and damp and dirty. The mattresses were dirty. It was just not a good place.
industry. It's more survival tactic. End quote. I don't like that. I don't like that they said that because I appreciate this coalition. This coalition has actually worked with a lot of kids in Tennessee as young as 3 years old. But that last statement, it kind of makes it feel like they're like making it seem not as bad as it is. Like, yeah, they're doing this, but
Patty, did you notice that like I swear by it as far as when my daughter gets there, like my daughter already, she's turning 15, but she's already taking like the permit tests online and, acing them and stuff. My boys had no trouble getting their permits, getting their licenses, and I really like think that that's because they grew up on riding things, like on the riding lawnmower, on the go-kart, on the dirt bikes.
but they're doing it to survive. Like they're selling their own kids
Yes, exactly, Patty.
to sexual predators so that they can, get dental care for the family. Like that's gross. I don't like that at all.
I'm glad you don't like that. You shouldn't. It's a good thing. No, it's terrible. I wonder, as I'm
Welcome
thinking
back,
about this,
Josh.
would
Welcome
we
back.
expect to see?
Welcome
I
back. Welcome back.
would think, as an investigator, I would expect to see that this trafficking would not be isolated to just the one female child, because unfortunately, I know for a fact that a lot of predators out there, male predators, they prefer little boys. I don't know the psychology behind that, but that's something that we found a lot with the stings that we did. When they had a preference, it was
Yep,
surprisingly
exactly,
little boys
Patty.
over little
That's
girls.
strange because that's not what the statistics say at all. That's weird.
Just from my limited, just from,
Yes,
well, statistics. What statistics are you pulling from this area?
totally, Amy.
So we're talking, is that national
Yeah,
statistics?
national human trafficking statistics say that it's like I forget we
Aw,
said them
that's
earlier in the
awesome,
episode, but like
David.
one in 3 girls and 1 in 6 boys. But
Yeah, no, just in the and we don't have,
But you're here, Ghost. Good morning, welcome.
we didn't have a lot of it, but I do, and we would never, it was always like Craigslist when that was a thing. We used that. We would also have this weird thing where there would be postings.
Well, on top of them riding and stuff too, whenever we were going places, in the car, I would, just for something to do and keep them occupied in the car, I would question them on street, like different signs, driving signs, and on like traffic lights and things like that. I would always explain to them what they meant. And, I'd ask them on another drive what it meant and stuff like that. So that, on top of like doing the dirt bikes and go karts and all that stuff, yeah, they did really well when it came time to get their license. And I never really thought of that when they were growing up, but my father-in-law and my husband did.
For mattresses around my area, and that mattress sale was code for young children or prostitution. So we would call up these postcards or these signs that were on telephone poles and pretend like we were looking for a child or looking for a young woman to have sex with.
Yo, that's real? That is real? Because I swear, years ago.
That's what I was saying, David. They weren't, people think because of how they lived that they were so poor. They were not poor. Dawn made decent money doing contracting.
Oh, I used to like conspiracy theory videos a lot, and I remember years ago I was watching a video about a conspiracy theory, and they were like, "Oh, if you see ads for mattress sales, this is like human trafficking of minors." And everybody was like, "You're crazy," but that's an actual thing.
Oh yeah, I actually had a case where I was working patrol.
Good morning, Brandy.
In uniform.
How was the trip?
Saw this sign go up. It was used mattresses for sale. It was like 2 streets over from where I was patrolling. Happened to drive by there, saw multiple cars from out of state driving up to the house. That's usually a sign of some type of illegal activity, because this area wasn't a through route to get from Massachusetts to Connecticut or anything. It was like you'd really have to go off the path. So told the detectives about it. They got me off shift.
They're addicts, Bella. Definitely both are alcoholics, but it's been said that they do other things. My guess is just like any addict, they'll take what they can get their hands on.
Changed me into like jeans and a sweatshirt. I called the number. I actually went into the house, and the code word was hot. I was hot. I went in. There was 2 women in there. They were both over the age of 18, but it was prostitution. It wasn't juveniles. But the gist that we got from this apartment, there were all multiple rooms, just mattresses set up in every room. And it appeared, based on some of the clothes and some of the things that were there, toys, that there had been children passing through there at some point. Unfortunately, we didn't find any in there at the time, but the looks of it seemed like this was a kind of a through route where the women were coming from overseas, and then they were going right there and then going somewhere else as they continued on. But it was disgusting in there. There was roaches, rats, everything. It was horrible. That was the one time in my entire career where I was undercover for a human trafficking investigation. We actually ended up bringing in the FBI for that one because it expanded past our jurisdiction. But to bring this back, well, did you have any follow-up for that part before I say anything else?
Yeah, no, I just want to hear more. I want to keep going.
There wasn't a ton to it. That was really it. We had made a deal.
That was how, well, not the making me, my dad, I didn't live with my dad, so I didn't get that. The changing a tire, my husband tried to teach me to drive a stick, and I just never could get it. But yeah, I didn't get to drive until I had a job, was able to pay my own car insurance and pay for gas.
It was
and then, like some people buy their kids cars or whatever. Nope. I had to work. I had to, earn that car myself.
Exchange of money for sex with one of the girls in the other room. So as soon as they said that, I had them.
Okay.
I can't say, yeah. So as soon as they said, what am I here for? And he was like, oh, blowjob 20, sex 100. As soon as they initiate it, you can't initiate it. You can't say, hey, I want to have sex with her for $20. Are you cool with that?
But you can say like, oh, I'm here about the mattress.
Yep. So what? And I can say, how does it work? And if they say that there's an exchange of money for a sexual act, then that's it. And the interesting thing, I gotta be careful it's all adjudicated. The women, one of the women were actually upset that we had arrested him, and she was saying basically it was voluntarily. She was voluntarily doing it. The other woman was in fear, and we got her out of there. We moved her out of the state, and she got taken care of.
Okay, so then I have one more follow-up then. To go back really quick.
Okay.
So you said, you're surprised it wasn't maybe the boys too. Well, we don't know, first of all, if it was, but
That's it, right? They did take the boys from the house.
They did take the boys from the house, and there were other reasons besides what Don was saying, oh, they weren't safe and it's best for now. Like, obviously, the state decided this isn't the best place for these kids. But I will say, like, there's a lot of talk, and you'll hear in these interviews, because Summer was 5. Okay, I have a 5-year-old daughter. My daughter talks, you've heard her on the phone. Mingy, I can't be on the phone with you without Bella popping in and talking. She talks quite a bit. Summer was not very verbal, actually. She wasn't really talking at a place where a 5-year-old should be talking. So you'll hear Don say, like, oh yeah, we were thinking about putting her in like classes, or she was, saying some things. Like, she would say, Daddy, bring me candy when I would leave for work sometimes. But Summer didn't seem to be talking at the level that a typical average 5-year-old would be talking at. And that could be for a lot of reasons. It could be a lack of education, a lack of, nurturing that language at home, because I don't know if she was in preschool or anything like that. It could also be a stunting of growth from abuse.
Yeah, I believe it, David. Like, a lot of creators, if you just disagree with what they're saying in their chat, you get yeeted. Yeah, we're not like that here. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to agree with anybody in chat. Just keep it respectful to each other, and that's all. We're adults.
And when from trauma and abuse, exactly. So, and then when maybe she starts to become more verbal and more vocal, it becomes a concern, because now she's able to express herself more readily, and she's getting to a point where she's going to be starting kindergarten in the fall, just a couple of months after she goes missing.
I want to talk about how this whole scenario, these staggering statistics relate to Summer, but let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
With HelloFresh, you get far
HelloFresh
statistics. They deal with this all the time. So as it relates to what we're talking about tonight,
Thank
is
you,
it
Patty.
fair to say that the hypothetical scenario here would be, let's say Summer was being trafficked, that this was a situation where they were allowing whoever to take her for an extended period of time, or they were dropping her off, something went wrong where this person never brought her back, or during the incident she was killed? What are people
Like
saying?
I said, that all got lost. It became not about her at all. That's what upset me so much in this case.
That are really connected to this.
So do you remember that video I played for you? I think it was the last episode, and it was a picture of Summer dancing in the rain, and she was dancing in front of like a barrel, and the barrel had a for sale sign on it. And this video was posted on Candace's social media. And some people think, much like your mattress, advertisements, that this was a way to signal to the group of pedophiles who were in the area, who knew where to find certain things and what tags to follow, that this child was up for sale. And yes, I guess what I was trying
that really makes me feel creeped out, you guys, because if you think of the way everything was set up, it totally could have happened. I'm not saying it did. I don't like, some of these channels put speculation out there as fact. I'm not saying that it did happen, but the setup would have been perfect for that to happen because of the back door going into the basement, her bedroom being down there with Candace and Dawn's. Like I said, when the boys said in the beginning they saw her walk out the door, there's no way they could have seen her walk out the door if they were upstairs. You can't see down in the basement, let alone to the basement door.
To illustrate here is that, in my opinion, and the statistics, it's far more likely that if Summer was taken for the purposes of human trafficking, like Don Wells says and insists that she was taken and human trafficked, the trafficking, I feel like it would have had to have been done at the hands of someone she knew, and less likely than someone who just saw her on Facebook, like, innocently, and then found out where she lived, which is kind of what Don's saying. Like, somebody found Summer on like her mom's Facebook, somebody who didn't know her, which I don't know how that's going to happen either, but somebody who didn't know the family just saw Summer on social media. It's not like Candace Bly was an Instagram influencer and all these random strangers are just flocking to her profile. But Don thinks somebody saw Summer on social media.
Right, Lotus? I mean, if you really think about that, it 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 would have been the perfect setup, right? The basement. They could come in the basement door, be unseen by the older kids.
Found out where they lived and then snatched her. That doesn't seem very likely to me, but it feels more likely that if Summer was sex trafficked, as Don Wells insists, it was at the hands of someone she knew. And some people have speculated whether Summer was being sold to different people for the purposes of sex. Something happened with one of these people, with either the person taking her and just not ever bringing her back, or the person killing her and not.
Well, and Hugh, they said that the boys were upstairs playing video games at the I think it was the table or something. And that's like on the other side. And the way that the basement, you had to go down to the basement, was like a cubby hole under the kitchen counter. There's no way. It would have been too dark for them to see down into the basement. Even if they were standing at the top of the cubby, I don't think they could see into the basement. They could maybe see who was down at the bottom of the stairs or ladder or whatever. But I don't think you could, at the angles or with the lighting situation, I don't think they could have seen into the basement.
Not bringing her back. And if that did happen, what could Candace and Don possibly have told the police? Like, oh, well, actually, we sold our 5-year-old daughter to a random guy on the internet
True,
who wanted to
David.
rape her, and he didn't bring her back, or he accidentally or purposely killed
So
her. So, you know,
do you think that are you saying that in regards to like maybe Robin was trying to save her, like get her out of there?
ugh, sorry. I hope that helps your investigation. Like if Summer had been scheduled to meet with one of these sick people the afternoon she went missing, that would explain why, people reported seeing a red truck nearby and the driver of that red truck's never come forward and admitted to having been there. If the driver and the truck never returned, Summer's parents couldn't very well be honest about what had happened. But they could be honest enough to insist that she'd been abducted, she might have been taken by a sex trafficker, and they were 1,000,000% sure she was no longer in the area. That's kind of what the general belief on this whole trafficking thing is if her parents are involved.
I don't consider Don or Candace to be scholars, and I feel like that psychological game that you're talking about there, I just don't think they're smart enough to do it. Like if they were involved in any way, shape, or form in some type of trafficking scheme.
Yeah, we can. As much as I hate to give CM a view, because that's who did the tour of the house. But we can watch that.
I think they would stay as far away from that scenario as possible because they don't want to draw an attention to it. That's just my opinion.
Wait, you think they'd stay away from the trafficking scheme?
Yeah,
No, it's not a
I
trafficking
do.
scheme. So I know you say like you have limited experience, but this happens to be one of the things that like I'm obsessed with because it bothers me so much and I want to know everything about it in case anybody I know is like involved or a kid I know is involved. I want to know everything to look out for. For years, I've looked into this. This is very common in low income, low education areas because they are desperate for money or they're addicted to drugs or alcohol and they do this stuff to their own kids. This is more common amongst the exact population that we're talking about than any other population is what I guess I'm trying to say. Specifically, traffickers target these types of people because they know you're
Desperate for money to keep doing your whatever you're addicted to. Oh,
desperate. You'll do anything, including like giving me your child for an hour or a night. All the cases I've looked at that involve young children like this, and there's hundreds. There's enough that you could talk about them for weeks. It all includes these people who are contacting the parents, offering money, offering drugs, things like that in return, specifically, and the parents are like, oh, okay. So it's not like these are brain, what a brain scientists. What am I trying to say here?
Surgeons.
Brain surgeons. It's like I'm not a brain surgeon right now and I'm trying to explain this, but it's not like you have to be a brain surgeon you're not involved in the sex trafficking scheme. You're just a cog in it. You're giving something away and receiving something in return. It does not take intelligence. It's very, very common.
Maybe I explained myself wrong. That's not, I appreciate the explanation. That's not what I was saying at all. What I was saying was I don't think they're smart enough to suggest to law enforcement what actually happened. So what I was saying was, if they were involved in a trafficking scheme, which, like you just laid out, could be carried out by someone else other than them, I don't think they're smart enough to actually suggest that their daughter was the victim of something they know she was actually the victim
Do you think
of.
that's smart? You think that's smart to
Yeah.
do?
Well, I just don't think they think like that. I don't think they would be adamant about the fact that she was trafficked. I think they're coming from a place of, we feel she was abducted and then sold to someone or sold off to the people. I don't think that they would bring that up. I think if that was the case, they would stay as far away from it as possible.
I think it
Or,
would be smart to stay far away from it, but
right, then they're not smart people. Or if they really did, if someone came forward and said, hey, I have a proposition for you, we want to take Summer for a few hours. If they really did care about her and they knew who this person was and they had a number for it, well, then you got to bite the bullet and tell law enforcement what actually happened. You got to say, hey, listen, we know she was abducted because of this. This is why we're so adamant about it. We had someone make a proposition to us.
you said Candace is doing the very most to downplay every tiny thing that might make it look like she's not a great mother. Don't you think this would be a very big thing to downplay? They're not going to bite the bullet. They're not going to come right out. What choice do they have but to lie? And you're the one that always says the best liars integrate a grain of truth. Don't you think Don Wells, somebody who's been molesting children since he was 12 years old, is going to develop like this very intricate way of lying and figuring out how to get himself out of trouble? And
no, he literally admitted. He literally admitted to molest.
See, and that's how I feel too, David. I don't think they needed the money.
Thing is, I mean, come on. He admitted to it. He's like, oh,
what he admitted to is a portion of what he actually did, though, right? Kind of like what he's admitting to here now is we know we know she's been involved in trafficking now is kind of a portion of what he actually knows. It just doesn't seem right for a parent to say, like, we 1,000,000% believe our 5-year-old daughter has been sex trafficked. Like, that's crazy to me that it would even occur to you unless you know something. I don't know. Like, there's just something about it to me that feels icky and wrong, and it doesn't vibe.
David, I hope to God that you're right and the last is true. I really do. I like Hugh said, I hope that it was a family that, parents that could not have children desperately wanted them and will give her a good home and a good upbringing, and she will not be harmed. That is definitely my prayer.
I can see that. I can see that. I don't know. For me personally, yes. I don't think it's any secret.
Yes, Diva. There is, I want to say 2 or 3 people with charges against him now for that. I think his 2 stepsisters are 2 of them.
I don't think this is a likely scenario. I don't. Even though statistics are there, and we're almost near the end. We're a little bit more than halfway through. I have an opinion on what I think could have went down. It's not this, but it's just that. It's just an opinion, just based on my intuition from listening to this, David. To what we've talked about so far.
So I really don't know if it's this either.
That was like so profound, seeing those texts of Candace saying they don't want to come home, and that's what they're going to tell the judge.
Right?
You would say that after
I really don't know for sure. Like, I don't know, but I do know.
Could have fooled me.
I do know that I find this to be far more likely than like any shit that Candace and Don is saying happened. Okay. Like, there's no way you turned your back for 2 minutes and your daughter got snatched up by some sex trafficking ring. Like, there's absolutely no way that happened. So to even introduce trafficking into the conversation is like, what are we doing here? Why are you even talking about this? Like, what do you know that the rest of us don't know? And just the fact that I know, like I said, this is kind of my personal side hobby. Like, I keep track of these cases. I have a whole Google folder full of these cases every time they come up. It bugs me so much. I literally want to like get a Batman suit, vigilante the shit out of anybody who sells a child into sex trafficking. I just want to like kill them all. Okay.
Well, can I throw a scenario at? Can I throw a scenario at you?
Yeah.
I think you said it in episode 1. And you might have said it in episode 2, but you had mentioned that Candace had some significant substance abuse issues, correct?
Allegedly.
Mm-hmm. Let's say for the sake of this conversation, that's true. Okay. If she had been around this type of environment where she was going to the places where this type of activity was taking place, specifically methamphetamine, she might have witnessed this type of trafficking going on in the exchange for narcotics, before she had children and after. So for her to think that her daughter could now be a victim.
And she had 2 children before Dawn and her had gotten together and had kids, and those 2 children were taken from her. She did not have custody of them. So that says a lot too. And kind of makes me wonder why something wasn't done, when she had those babies. And maybe it was and she wasn't on anything, but I know here,
Of
I
something
thought in most
similar.
states that they test the baby when the baby is born for any type of drugs or alcohol or anything like that. And if there is anything in the baby system, they don't let that baby go home with the parents.
Maybe that's where she's coming from. Maybe that's where Don's coming from, where they know it's very, very prevalent in their area, where there's this ring that's going on where children are being taken all the time and used for these purposes. That might be why they're so sure of it. It doesn't necessarily mean they were doing it themselves.
Or conversely, she grew up seeing that because she was in it.
Oh,
And then she
really?
had this little girl and she's like, hey.
That's crazy, isn't it? Because weed stays in your system for 30 days. That's crazy that meth would be out of your system that quickly.
I can do this. I can do this. I've seen this happen. I know this happens. I know what this whole kind of scenario goes and how this thing works.
You mean with the first 2 children, Lotus?
I don't know. Yeah, we'll go with your thing.
I mean, there's no thing to go with. It's as you said, even the idea that she was using substances is alleged. Everything's alleged. So we're coming up with there's a lot of speculation based on things that we haven't been able to substantiate. So it's a slippery slope when you're trying to find something concrete, because a lot of the building blocks that we're using to kind of create this structure is based on alleged scenarios and speculation. So it's tough. It's tough for anybody unless you're the actual investigator who has information to prove or disprove something we're saying. For example, if there was some type of trafficking going on, you would expect to see some type of digital evidence, whether it's by phone, by Facebook, whatever, some type of messages, whether they're in code or not. A lot of the times when we had human traffickers and drug dealers, instead of sending text messages, they would send photos, because at the time you'd have to need a different warrant for that. And they would send photos with, children, or they would send photos with directions or instructions, etc.
Yeah, Diva, my son started a new job a few months ago, and most jobs, the drug test you now. They did a hair follicle drug test on him, which can go back 90 days. Luckily, he's like the straightest kid you'd ever want to meet. Never even took a drink for his 21st birthday or anything.
They would be able to get warrants for all of that. They would have enough probable cause to get warrants for the parents' phones. So if they had found something that was incriminating, I'm sure either it would have leaked or we would have heard about it, because it would have been an arrest by now. So the fact that it doesn't appear on the surface that there was any digital evidence to suggest there was some validity to this scenario, I'm just going under the assumption that there wasn't. But then again, it could be because they just haven't released anything yet.
Yeah, I think that, I think they do have something, and that's why they're so quiet about it. And that's why they keep saying, like, everything's an option. Nobody's been ruled out yet. They haven't come out even this far, over a year in, to say, like, the parents are ruled out as suspects. They are not persons of interest. We have cleared them completely. We've looked at every single freaking phone, tablet, computer they have. There's nothing here. Like, leave them alone. They have not done that, even with the intense, scrutiny from the public. So a normal law
Even
enforcement
down to David, like I was saying, I kind of believe that the whole reason she picked up Hunter was so that Hunter could be the one to keep an eye on Summer, so that Candace could just go to the lake and chill out, have her drink, have her vape, hang out, and let Hunter do the running around to chase Summer and watch her. Guys, I'm going to put it on the be right back for a minute. I have to use the restroom. Plus, I figure we could all use the palette cleanser. So I will be right back.
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away.
Yeah, I'm about to fade away, cause every time I wake up I feel like it's Monday. Something's going wrong with all the chemicals up in my brain. All of a sudden I don't look at anything the same way. Gotta build up of my thoughts sitting in an ashtray. I'm sorry that I'm so inconvenient, okay. Just let me be me and I'll stay out of your way. I can see the way you look at me, I'm such a disgrace. I never really asked to be brought into this place. You wanna love me? Well then baby I have a taste. All the highs and the lows, no you'll never be the same. I don't really wanna hurt you but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change I need today. I promise that I've never felt this way. I really hope that you will choose to stay through all the pain.
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away, as you fade away.
Like nothing I found, my mind overwhelms. I think that I'm broken, but I hope you can't help. I know I'm not perfect, but some days I feel far more worthless. Baby, you make me feel nervous. If I still have you, I have purpose. It's all worth it.
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. I guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away, as you fade away. Tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray.
never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way to win it life. I never miss, that's fact, taking big swings, bitch, hand me the bat, put me in the ring, you'll go out in a bag, cause I sing what I mean and I bring it to the mad light. Ain't got time to kill, I got time to feel, I took the red pill, I know life's short so I wanna live real, but how's it supposed to feel? How's it supposed to feel? How's it supposed to feel? They wanna sing my name, but they holding back. They wanna say they hate, but they know it's cap. I ain't play no games, I just do that's fact. And I don't feel no shame, it's a mood you lack. I go crazy, nah bitch I ain't lazy. Track after track, I work on this shit daily. Pass me the jack, right as fuel, got me hazy. About to unpack all these things I've been chasing. I've got visions in my head, like memories after death. To be a legend instead of something you can forget. I'm living up every breath, I'd rather lead than be led. I'll fill the seats as I spread with every word that I've said. How's it supposed to feel? How's it supposed to feel?
I'm back. Did y'all miss me?
Enforcement agency with like the crazy frenzy that this case has caused. I think if they
Yes,
had nothing on the
there
parents,
is.
they would have come out and been like, dude, we got nothing on the parents. Chill out. Like, look elsewhere. We have nothing on the parents. They have not done this. They have all their phone records. So it could be something as simple as like a Facebook message where a guy's like, oh, hey, I saw you have a barrel for sale. And Candace is like, yeah, come to my address. Here's the address. And then the police go to them and say, oh, what's up with this guy who asked you? Oh, yeah, he just wanted to see if he could buy this thing and he came to the house, but he left and that was it. And, you know, there's nothing more to it. So I don't know. There's a million things that could happen, but I definitely think they got something on the parents that they haven't released because they're trying to build a case. And if they didn't, I think they definitely would have come out by now and given us some kind of concrete statement of like, leave these people alone because we've completely cleared them. So I just want to play you a quick clip where Don's being asked, you know, what do you think happened and things like that. And he's kind of probed a little bit about, well, do you think Candace could have done something? And then he's asked, like, what are the possibilities? And he keeps going back to that one possibility, which is Summer was snatched into sex trafficking.
There was also video or something of Summer hiding behind that barrel at one point.
We talked to him on the edge of his property where Summer disappeared.
What do you think happened? What does your heart tell you?
Well, I know in my heart and in my mind she was abducted. Someone snuck up there.
In the country, yes, especially in the country, glam, for fires. There is a large pre-owned barrel community that I don't know about.
We weren't exactly paying attention, and we don't know if they come in the basement and grabbed her, or if she stepped outside the basement and was walking to her swing or something.
You can see the Wells house up through the trees on the hill right here. And what the family thinks happened is that someone took Summer, brought her down this steep embankment to possibly a car that was waiting in the roadway. And right now, detectives say they are looking for a red or maroon pickup truck that may have been in the area around the time that Summer Wells went missing. But even the sheriff today said they have no confirmation that the truck was actually there. They're not even for sure it is definitely connected. Questions have come up about what Candace might know. Could she have gotten herself into a situation where it wasn't her fault, but...
No.
You know what I mean?
No. No. No, she's a good mother. She loves her children. She's not going to allow any situation like that. The biggest mistake she might have made is maybe choosing some wrong friends, which is, you know, it happens. But other than that, no way.
Do you think any of those wrong friends could have something to do with it?
We don't know.
I know you all have had some ups and downs in your past with alcohol and drugs. Do you think one of...
I'm just saying, my daddy was, you know, he was a countryman and gruff and everything else. But I'll tell you what, if one of his kids was missing, you better believe there would have been emotion coming out of him. You know, he would have been on camera a lot, literally crying.
Of those people that came around could have...
No, we can't go there.
The sheriff says the Wells are cooperating, but that there's no evidence at this point that Summer was kidnapped or abducted. Is it possible that Summer's parents, Candace and Dawn, had something to do with this, or have you ruled that out?
We haven't ruled anything out. Everything's possible.
See what I'm saying, though? I feel like if he'd been like, oh, is there any chance they did this? And the police were really kind of like not going down that path, they would have been like, you know, we haven't ruled anything out yet, but they've been cooperative. Their alibis have checked out. Like, as far as we can tell, blah, blah, blah. Like, they kind of would have expounded. This dude's just like, anything's on the table. Like, he's not giving us anything to go on. So it's very odd. And you heard Don mention those, like, what did he say, wrong friends that Candace may have made? Yep, it may have been the wrong friends. And then the reporter says, do you think it could have been them? And he said, oh, we don't know. It's just very strange.
For the law enforcement officer, it could be as simple as they just don't have any exculpatory evidence. Nothing to say definitively they couldn't have conducted the crime. And the worst thing he could do...
Well, I didn't grow up living with my dad, Hugh, because my parents were divorced. But I was the baby, so I was definitely daddy's little girl. So if somebody hurt me and he knew about it, it wouldn't have been pretty.
Without exculpatory evidence is say they 100% weren't involved, and then something comes out where they were, and now him and his agency look like a bunch of idiots. So unless they have something definitively that they can say there's no physical way they were involved, they're never going to say that, just for the sake of everything is still on the table. All options are still open. And to be fair, the last person to be seen with Summer, according to them, is Candace. So how can they say there's no way she could be involved when, by her own words, her own statement, she was the last person to see her alive, maybe other than the children? So they're not going to say that.
I don't expect them to say there's no way they were involved. If they weren't, or they were not going down that path, as I said, I would expect them to kind of be more reassuring, you know, to kind of be like, well, you know, as far as we can tell so far, like, they are cooperating, right. They passed their polygraphs. You've seen that happen in other cases where the police don't want you to jump all over the parents because they know more than you do, and they kind of know that's not the way they're going right now. So they kind of don't want the public to be focusing on the parents. They want them to be out there looking at other options and not like attacking these people who have lost their child.
Yeah, I mean, it could be just his approach. He seems like a really kind of dry guy.
Yeah, straightforward.
Yeah, every organization is different how they handle these types of things.
I was the baby, Hugh, but I was also the one that everybody came to, so I was kind of like thrust into the eldest position, you know?
Some will come out and be a little bit more vocal. Some will be just like this, where it's like, hey, this is what it is. What I would say, just from doing these types of interviews, is don't look too deep into it. It's not, you know, it's that he's not saying much. Like, we both heard what he said. All options are possible right now. He's basically saying, hey, I'm agreeing to speak with you, Brian Eaton, but I'm not giving you anything more than I'm giving anybody else.
Brian Enton.
That's my takeaway from it. Whatever the hell his name is. He does a good job. I shouldn't say
No,
whatever the hell his name is. He's very.
He's good. I think you're thinking about that other guy from Utah, the one who is on all. He was on the Gabby Petito case. His name's also Brian. It's like Brian Eaton. Very similar.
That's the same guy who did Gabby Petito.
No, it's not him. The guy that we just were talking about is the same guy that did Gabby Petito.
The guy that's interviewing that law enforcement person is the same Brian who's the face of the Gabby Petito case. 100%.
No, that guy was at CrimeCon. The guy from the Gabby Petito case was at CrimeCon.
Nope. So we're back now. Stephanie did a research. Stephanie, what's your findings?
So I was talking about Nate Eden from East Idaho News, who was on the Lori Vallow case and the Gabby Petito case. And he was talking about Brian Enton from News Now or News Nation, who also did, I guess, make his name off the Gabby Petito case. But I didn't know anything about that dude because I like Nate Eden, okay?
Who's the guy in the clip, though? That's what we're referring to? Who's that guy?
The guy in the clip is Brian Enton.
Brian Enton, who did the what case?
He did cover the Gabby Petito case. Oh, I'm so glad you're right. Every reporter in the greater United States covered that case. So you could have just thrown a freaking orange and hit any reporter and said he talked about the Gabby Petito case. So I'm glad you're happy. What do you want, $20? Oh, man, you win. You're right. Does that make you feel good?
Feels good.
You're not right. You're not right, though, man.
Feels so good.
You said Brian Eden.
The guy in that video is the Gabby Petito guy.
The guy in that video is the Gabby Petito guy. Okay.
That's right.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Brian Enton was his name. I watched him for that Gabby Petito thing.
It was a night like any other. We ate some dinner, chatted for a bit about school and work. And now we're going to talk about a crime syndicate, and I'm using air quotes, and this crime syndicate is called the Cornbread Mafia. And this is something that sort of got brought up when Don Wells and Candace Bly were on the Dr. Phil show, which actually aired, I believe, just a couple months ago. I think it aired in June of 2022. And, you know, some people were wondering if the wrong friends that Don had mentioned in that previous clip, the one he said that Candace, you know, could have been running with the wrong friends, maybe those wrong friends were connected to the Cornbread Mafia, especially after Candace, she kind of kept her composure throughout most of the Dr. Phil episode until she was asked about this group, and then she became very emotional, and she kind of stormed off the set. Now, according to the book, A Homegrown Syndicate's Code of Silence and the Biggest Marijuana Bust in American History by James Higdon, quote, in the summer of 1987, Johnny Boone set out to grow and harvest one of the greatest outdoor marijuana crops in modern times. In doing so, he set into motion a series of events that defined him and his associates as the largest homegrown marijuana syndicate in American history, also known as the Cornbread Mafia. End quote. Now, the Cornbread Mafia is just a loose term that's kind of used to describe this syndicate, which operates in rural areas, including.
I'm glad they covered this. I totally missed this part of it.
Portions of rural Tennessee. And when body language experts Scott Rouse and Greg Hartley from what is that YouTube? What is the Behavior Panel? Do you know the Behavior Panel?
No, a lot of people mention them in our comments.
Okay, so it's like Greg and Scott. They're with two other guys on the Behavior Panel, and they watch like videos and they kind of break it down. And they're body language experts. They're supposed to be like, you know, some of the best around. I know that you and I definitely agree on this. We don't buy too much into the whole body language thing. You probably maybe buy into it a little bit more than me because you were trained for that as far as like interrogation and interviews go for police and things. But, you know, I think neither of us buy into the whole like, oh, if you look up to the left, it means you're lying without a doubt. And if you scratch your nose with your middle finger, that means you're thinking, you know, it's like very extreme sometimes.
Yeah, I think we said it before. I don't think there's like a template you can apply to every single person, but I do believe that if you develop a preset based on someone's personal characteristics, there are tells that can be taken from an individual where you can, if you have a long enough conversation with them, you can start to identify specific physical behaviors that are associated with deception or being more truthful, but it's a person by person basis, and then you also have to consider in other factors like, are they under the influence of anything, things like that. So there are a lot of factors surrounding it, but I do think it can be a valuable tool.
And I will say the behavior panel does sort of go through like old interviews when they were looking through. So they weren't just taking the one instance. They were kind of looking to see, is this just Don Wells' vernacular? Is this how he speaks? They were kind of taking into account the culture, where he was from, where he grew up, things like that. So they do seem to, have a good handle on it. And Scott and Greg were on the Dr. Phil show, and they asked Don and Candace about this group, the Cornbread Mafia. And Don Wells responded that they were aware of drug activity and stuff like that in their area, but, quote, we don't associate or socialize with them, end quote. And then he made sure that Greg and Scott knew that he and Candace did everything in their power to keep their children away from potential criminal activity. However, the mention of the Cornbread Mafia prompted Candace to begin crying for the first time in the interview. She began sort of like clutching at the wires of her microphone, demanding that it be taken off. And then she got up and stormed out of the room, leaving Don alone with Scott and Greg. Now, the two body language experts claimed Candace's actions could be described as insulating and running. And Scott Rouse said, quote, she insulates when she starts crying, so we can't get to her. In other words, psychologically, we can't speak to her, and we see the emotion as soon as I say Cornbread Mafia. There, as we see, that mouth starts dragging down within seconds, and that's how long it takes to get into the brain and say, hey, this isn't good, end quote. Greg Hartley told Dr. Phil that before Candace even left the room, she began to make herself unavailable, saying, quote, she's already escaped. It's just a matter of getting out of that wire, end quote.
Yeah, he is a detective. He used to work, I believe it was New York. He was also on season 16 of Big Brother, and he killed that season. Like, he dominated that season all the way through. But he's good, and that's why he did so well in Big Brother, because he can read people from, being a detective and doing interrogations.
I personally, after doing some research and actually downloading that book on Amazon, the one that goes over the history of the Cornbread Mafia, and I read it all. It was very interesting. I think the Cornbread Mafia angle is ludicrous. I don't even know how this became what it is. I think it was definitely Candace's reaction on Dr. Phil that kickstarted everyone to wonder if there was something to it. And now everybody's got videos on YouTube like, oh, the Cornbread Mafia.
Yeah, exactly.
As if this organization was like a nefarious gang who's going around and snatching children. But in my opinion, her reaction could have had nothing to do with the mention of the Cornbread Mafia. It could have just been a reaction of general tiring, being over the questions, not wanting to continue going over everything again and again. And it just so happened to kick in at that moment. Because from what I can tell, the Cornbread Mafia, they're just a bunch of guys in Kentucky in like the 70s who wanted to grow weed and sell it. And this like pissed off the federal government.
You usually see money flowing from the bottom to the top. You usually see some type of identifier via tattoos, the type clothes that individuals are wearing, colors, stuff of that nature.
That's not what you get out of this 80s era organization who got their start moving marijuana, not children.
At this point, it's more of legend and folklore versus actual possible reality.
Candace Bly's reaction was unmistakable, but the cause of her stress could be misunderstood.
We don't know what the triggering effect is. It could have just triggered her for something else and not necessarily their involvement with or possible involvement with her abduction or disappearance.
But the organization may well exist, says our expert, but no structure exists to pull off Summer's disappearance.
So I think it's more of a code of silence versus an actual organized operation.
And it does look as if the Cornbread Mafia operations, they did stretch far out of Kentucky, even overseas. And there definitely was a code of silence back in the 80s when they came on law enforcement's radar. There were 70 people arrested between 1987 and 1989 in relation to the Cornbread Mafia, and 0 of them agreed to testify against the others in exchange for immunity or a lighter sentence, which is what they say is like a better record than the Sicilian Mafia, who are known to close ranks. Like, nobody in the Cornbread Mafia talked and turned against anyone else, which is probably why they are still allowed to sort of...
Cute. My daughter used to be obsessed with parties. She would decorate the house, and she would tell my in-laws they had to come over, and my boys would have to, come out to the party. and she would have like little games and snacks and everything planned for us. She used to do that all the time. It was so cute. Good morning, Daisy.
Sort of go around today and not really be on anyone's radar, but they're definitely not kidnapping children. There's no evidence that they've even like ever harmed anybody. They just grow weed and sell it. And there's no evidence that the cornbread mafia is connected to Candace or Don. There's no evidence that these people would graduate from selling weed to kidnapping 5-year-olds just for the hell of it. And overall, these body language experts, they believe that Don Wells and Candace have nothing to do with whatever happened to Summer, even if there were some red flags presented by Candace.
We really didn't have a problem with Don. He seemed like he was being honest. It went ahead and solidified our thoughts on him having nothing to do with it whatsoever. Didn't know anything about it.
The experience on Dr. Phil, not all glitz and glamour for the parents of the missing 5-year-old.
When we got in there, she got a little upset with some parts of it. She got a little emotional.
Particularly Summer's mother.
There were red flags we saw with Candace where it just took a little bit too long to answer some questions, and some questions just didn't sound like we got the right answer for them. Which doesn't mean anything, doesn't mean that she's guilty or innocent or anything. It just, we just saw some things and heard some things that made us question the validity of her answers.
So on the Dr. Phil show, Dr. Phil says to Candace and Don, quote, "Statistics tell us that when children are abducted or molested or in any way victimized, it's very seldom by strangers. It's a friend of the family, a family member. It's somebody that has access to the family. Do you have any idea, any concept of anybody who would have had knowledge of your property, how to get down that road, how to do anything like that? And I'm not asking you to name somebody here, but is there anybody who comes to mind that might have seen Summer or targeted her in some way?" End quote. Don Wells responds, "Not that we know of," and he says they've been thinking about it constantly. And then Dr. Phil asked Candace if there was anyone who made her uncomfortable, the way they looked at Summer or how they acted around Summer. And Candace says,
I call my daughter my little songbird because she has sang since she could speak. When she was in preschool, the preschool teachers used to joke that, remember them when she's, big and famous, because you would walk down the halls in the preschool, you could hear her singing in the bathrooms and everything.
"No one that I'm aware of." But that was not what Don Wells told the behavior panel a few months prior to this interview, where he suggests that maybe a man he had fired just the day before Summer went missing could have been responsible. And this specific person had been to their property before, and Candace, she had not liked the way this guy behaved around Summer.
Previous to the day Summer come up missing, I fired a guy because he was extremely out there.
What was he doing?
Yeah. He was just out there.
What kind of out there?
I
know you got to be careful.
I think meth.
Okay.
I can't prove
it. Did he take that well?
No. He was extremely mad.
Did he know where you lived?
Aw, you.
And have you heard from or seen him since?
No. Our investigators have talked to him, and he's talked, I guess pretty well, but the day after Summer had come up missing, he called my boss and he was crying and saying some really oddball things. My boss has a really good memory, so he remembered every word of it. And,
like what was he saying?
Like, my kids, let's see, the hills have eyes. I got too close to that family. What was the others? I got too close, and my kids can't see me in the back of a police car again. See, he worked for us 7 years prior, and he went through all the different crews. And he worked with me for a while, and it's kind of the same thing happened.
How old is he?
He's like 36 now, I'd say, something more than that.
You don't know where he is, huh?
Yeah, I know where he is.
Has he been to your house with you?
Well, yeah, I had him come to my house and park his vehicle so that we could ride together all the way out past Chucky, way out there somewhere, past the airport, way out there in the farmlands. I just noticed he started getting irritated.
Morning, Lois.
Every little thing. This man, I give him 50%. Who does that? give him 50%, and all he has to do is show up every day. And he starts, coming up with excuses why he can't make it to work and stuff, and giving me trouble. And then the day I fired him, he was, doing a pan like that there, okay? And he spent probably 2 hours on it. Well, it should have took 20 minutes to coat that with mud, first coat. And we were supposed to do something else, and he just jumped on that, and he was speaking under his breath and just carrying on. And then he comes to me with a pan of mud, and he says, there's all kind of trash in there, get it out of there, and give me some different mud. So I was like, in the world, okay. And
You're familiar with that kind of behavior for somebody on drugs like that? Would it seem like that was kind of
Well,
behavior?
I looked on YouTube of all the behavior that somebody on meth would have. The only one I can remember is hyperactive.
Sure.
But but he was screaming at me, just go home. I'll take care of this job. I got this job. And I told him to leave. Get off the job. Don't want to work with you one more second. And he didn't like that too well. And then he called my boss with what I was telling you, what he was saying and stuff, and called him probably 100 times. Tried everything in the world to get me fired. Told him all kinds of things. And I told Jesse, told my boss, I said, see, that's how it is every day.
Yeah.
So how many times had he seen Summer before?
A few times, and my wife was concerned about the way he was looking at her. She
I
had
have
red flags about that.
I want to make a low
What did she say?
She said that he was just kind of looking her up and down, like, it bothered her. She mentioned that to me before all this happened. So the very next day, she comes up missing around 6:30.
So Don Wells said some interesting things there, and we're going to go to our final break, and then we're going to discuss it. We'll be right back. Did you know that in the last year, rates of anxiety and depression have doubled in the U.S.? These days, it can take weeks to get a traditional therapy appointment. But Cerebral is an online mental health service that offers prescription medication, counseling, and therapy for anxiety, depression, ADHD, insomnia, and more. Cerebral is one of the few services that provides prescription medication online through a licensed provider.
/Crime Weekly for up to 65% off your first month. That's just a total of $30 to get started today. Join Cerebral on their mission to make quality mental health care accessible and affordable for all.
Okay, we're back. So
I've
Don
done
said
that.
this guy was extremely mad.
I have totally done that, Willis, but it was with tomatoes. I ended up with 5 bags of vine-ripened tomatoes instead of 5 tomatoes.
When he got fired, right? Don thinks the guy was on meth because he, I guess, looked at a YouTube video and he was hyperactive. And the day after, the guy called Don's boss crying and saying some very odd things like the hills have eyes and my kids can't see me in the back of a police car again. Summer goes missing, right? Like Summer goes missing the day. Wait, did he say the day after? So the day after, Don fired the guy. The day after Summer goes missing.
That's right.
And then the day after that, the guy calls Don's boss saying odd things.
I don't want to just go on board with what they're saying, but I do not like Don Wells because of past things that we've spoken about. You can't forgive those things. But I do find Don to be genuine in these interviews. He's looking him in the eye. He's not really thinking about what he's going to say before he says it. It does seem like he's coming from a place where he's doing these interviews in the hope that someone that he's interviewing with is going to help him or give him something that they don't already have. It's like when he's divulging this information about this guy, I get the sense that he's like saying it to them because it's things that he's thought about and he's wondering if there's something he missed or something that he should have picked up on based on what he remembers about the experience with this individual. And I feel like he's talking to these guys and he's pulling from memory and not something he's making up, not something that he's using as a deterrent or like, hey, look over here when the truth is over here. I don't feel like there's an underlying motive behind this topic and anything else that he's kind of discussed. So again, another situation where everyone is a suspect, right? Everyone's on the table until they find out what happened. So yeah, could someone have had an axe to grind with Don or Candace and decided to do something to one of their children, yeah, I guess that's possible, but I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, yeah, that's the most likely scenario.
So you believe that this guy he fired called Don's boss and was talking about the hills have eyes?
I do. And the reason I do is because, and I've said this numerous times in other cases, when you have someone who's given you a story and they start throwing other people into that story that can discredit or validate what they're saying, either they're really dumb or they're telling the truth, because all it takes is one phone call to call Don's boss and ask them, did this happen? And so if they're lying, they're not going to bring other people into their web of lies who don't have an incentive to lie for them. So when he says like, yeah, you know, he called my boss, it almost just seemed like that came off, like, again, from memory, where he's not trying to gain credibility by adding other people. That's just what happened. And he doesn't know if people from the behavior panel or law enforcement are going to watch this interview and call his bluff and call the boss and see if that happens. So it's like I said, it's one of two things, either really, really dumb and a bad liar, or there's some truth to what he's saying. And I would be willing to bet if you called Don's boss, he would have a similar story. Maybe not those exact words like the hills have eyes or whatever, but something along the lines of where this guy wasn't making a lot of sense when he called.
Yeah, but we have to understand that the only person who can really, the only entity that can really verify this stupid hills have eyes story are the police, right? And if the police call Don's boss and Don's boss is like, yeah, that never happened, the police aren't going to get on the media and be like, Don lied to the behavior panel on YouTube about his boss saying this guy said the hills have eyes. That's not going to happen. The cops are just going to store it away because it's not enough, right? Not even close enough to arrest him or say he did something nefarious, but it shows he's a liar. And that's not going to be enough to waste their time to, put that out anywhere. So he could very well have completely lied about it and we would never know, and he would know that the police are not going to say anything.
I agree. There's no way to know whether he's telling the truth or not. My angle is just, why say it if it's not true? All it's going to do is expose you more to the people you're trying to hide from, which is law enforcement, right? There's no need to add that ring.
Yeah, but there's no need for a lot of stuff that they did. Like that prank. I cannot get that prank out of my head just because I remember when I heard it, I was like, she's legit. Like, you can tell she is like hysterically crying and, how like you get so upset, you kind of start, she was doing that. Like, I totally believed her in that prank. So to me, when it came out that it was a prank, I was like, that's scary. Because if she could act that convincingly with the prank, that's scary.
Ankle to the story. If it's a fabricated story, just say, he said it to me. He said the hills have eyes to me. Who can substantiate that?
Yeah.
There's only you and the other person.
Yeah.
Why add someone else in there where you could end up screwing yourself? It just seems like an unnecessary risk to take if you're trying to create a lie. So that's what I'm going off of, is basically if it's not true, keep it between you and the person you're lying about, and that way they can't confirm or deny anything you're saying. You start adding in bosses and colleagues and friends and family. Hey, listen, that's your funeral. If you want to lie about it, that's going to be the thing that hangs you down the road. Hopefully, if he is involved.
I just feel like that's kind of Don's thing. Like, this is what he does. I've not bored you with hours and hours and hours of footage of Don going on every random YouTuber's channel and lives and saying the most ludicrous things and being drunk and just shooting off at the mouth and saying things that literally he will then contradict 5 minutes later. But it just seems to be kind of what he does. And I know that you kind of believe him. I don't believe this dude at all. Like, as far as I can throw him, there's something so oily about him, so manipulative. I think he's far smarter than anybody gives him credit for. I think he's been lying for a long time. I think he's an expert liar. And I think he's just kind of used to it. I think he kind of lives there because, it did seem like he wasn't making it up on the spot. It did seem like he was recalling from memory. I agree with you. But if he's already come up with this story of what he's going to say, and he's got these elaborate stories already created, it would be like he was recalling from a memory, right? If he's not.
Not that I love it. I hate this story, but the fact that when confronted about the child molestation of his sister, when it's basically her word against his, instead of saying that didn't happen, which is 99% of my experience with people like this. He's like, hey man, it did happen, but it's her fault. If I'm the detective in that room, I'm like, thank you. That's like I said in the last interview, the last episode we did, that's enough to get an arrest warrant because he's admitting it. So he to me, he doesn't seem like that good of a liar, but I think a lot of people in the comments might agree with you. They might say, hey man, I think this guy's got it all planned out. But seeing him admit on a podcast or a YouTube video that he basically committed child molestation, he doesn't seem like he's well prepared, but he could have been drunk, I guess. I don't know. I find for the most part, again, I can separate the two. Think he's a scumbag, but I also think he's telling the truth in this
I
situation.
think him being honest about the molestation was a mentality thing. I truly think he didn't think there was anything wrong with it, which is terrifying. Like, he literally just said, what do I care about admitting this? I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
So that's, more concerning than anything. But Don also mentions that there's like other shady individuals around where he and his family lived who were involved with drugs, and they were constantly like invading their property and stealing things.
Have you ever had any scares before? I mean, around your kids and that kind of
Well, we've had people come up, and say, oh, yeah, I was looking for my dog or my horse. Or
I will say, if you read about like sex trafficking and stuff, blonde hair and blue eyes are extremely in demand, for lack of a better way of saying it.
For various things before.
Was it children in the yard or?
Yeah.
During that?
Yeah, I've had people come up, on horses, all kinds of things, And
When was the last time that happened?
You know what? Since summer's been gone, we haven't had nobody around there except for, we had that one incident with the red truck that got hung up on the ditch there. There was actually, I asked the police if I could take pictures. He said, no problem, Mr. Wells.
So when was the last time before summer was missing that you had people up at your place? That somebody showed up, you know what I mean?
I'm not sure. It's probably been a long time, so I can't really remember. But I'm always gone. I'm always working. And I don't know these people, but I mean...
Does Candace know them? Or is
No. All I know is the people I work for, and they've become like they're the only ones I know.
Yeah. So are you isolated? You can't really tell by the pictures.
It seems isolated, but we do have neighbors, and then you got the drug thing going on, and where we live at, you got certain groups of people, and I'm not going to mention them by name, but you got these boys and those boys that are all related, and they think.
You think so, Glam? I think that she would be the first one that they would just because I feel like they, in their thought process, they would think that she would, bring in the most or whatever. But I don't really feel like that's what happened.
I think that they run everything, and a lot of people for years have run moonshine out there, probably manufactured meth and other stuff like that, and they think that they are the Bloods and the Crips of the hillbillies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have where I live. There's something very similar. We call it the cornbread mafia.
Yeah, that runs from here to through Georgia.
Georgia.
Cornbread mafia.
And they take that name and that title very seriously.
Yeah. So, have you had problems with them personally?
Well, we've always tried to stay away from that kind of activity and stuff, and stay in church and stuff like that, and stay positive. So I always felt like they looked at us as a target. And we've had people steal our dogs and leave their mutts for as long as we've been there. We've had people come up and just take various things, steal our gas in the middle of the night or whatever, and there's only certain kind of people that are up all day at night, stuff like that.
Yeah. And how close to you are they?
I say they're all the way around,
I mean, I don't mean to be like rude, but I kind of feel like you gotta dumb down your thought process in this case. And I don't mean that to be rude. I just don't feel like they are highly educated people. So I think a lot of times too, the things he said or says can totally be misinterpreted too, because I don't think I mean, Dawn is definitely better at speaking and like these interviews and everything else, but I feel like Candace isn't. I don't think she's, which is why I kind of can't believe that they would have done something, because I don't feel like Candace is intelligent enough to follow the plan and, keep the facade up.
I don't know. I mean, I just know a few people, personally, but.
Is it easy to just drive by your house, come by?
Well, they have to
keep
go by
looking?
my house to get to one area.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of traffic out there?
Yes, and when things are, when stuff's going on, there's a lot of traffic.
Do we know if these two interviewers are they former law enforcement?
I don't know.
I bet there's some type of law enforcement. So the reason I say it, and you guys couldn't see me, but I
He was laughing.
smiling. Did you pick up? Yeah, but did you pick up why I was smiling?
Which part? You seemed like right.
It was near the end. So it's one of those things where these investigators are trying to find ways. They have, like, before you go into the interview, you have like bullet points, things you definitely want to hit on, but you want to bring them up in a way where it just seems kind of passive, because you don't want to tip off the person you're interviewing that this is something you're actually concerned about or interested in, because that may cause them to kind of clam up a little bit, not say too much. You want to make it seem like it's just a conversation between the boys, right? So at one point they're talking to him, and one of the investigators, and I apologize, I don't know.
Does his t-shirt say protective detective? I've been trying to figure out what it
Their
says.
names says something like, oh yeah, where I'm from, we have those
Cornbread Mafia.
those cornbread mafia guys. He probably has nobody near him that has that, but he's just bringing it up, like, and then if you
No,
notice,
I think it was them. It was them who had initially brought it up months before to Don, and then Don sort of was like, oh yeah, they take that name seriously. Don's the one that glommed onto it because the behavior.
The only thing is, Glam, is then that would mean that law enforcement and everybody was in on it, That's the only reason that I can't see somebody taking her for good, which I know that sounds odd, but I mean, that's, if you were on the outside looking in at this family, I can see where somebody would want to do that. But I think that it would be found out by the police, and I can't see, TBI and everybody just going along with that.
Panelists said, like, they know about the cornbread mafia. The other one was like, oh, it stretches all the way from like here to Georgia, right? And then Don is just like, yeah, they take that name real seriously. Like, he had any idea what they were talking about? He didn't.
yeah, there's something there where I don't know if they had interviewed someone else or saw something online about like maybe this was going around, but there was a purpose to that comment where it's like they wanted to get that out there, because if you notice, they had like 3 or 4 more questions about the cornbread mafia immediately. It wasn't like a passing comment. It was to just transition the conversation to the topic of the cornbread mafia. And it might have been just something that during their research, they had saw something where that was like a speculation going on amongst the community members. So they probably thought, whether this is true or not, Don already knew about them, and he was maybe not wanting to bring, because remember, he's like, oh, I don't want to bring certain groups up by name. And they're like, yeah, no, we completely understand. So we have this group where we're from called the Cornbread Mafia.
We're going to call them out by name.
Yeah, and so you don't have to say it. We don't understand, but we're going to say a name.
I hate when people do that in conversation. It's so awkward, by the way. Like when they're trying to get something from you, and then they just kind of like casually bring it up as if that wasn't their whole point to begin with. It's very awkward.
That was a good interview. I gotta probably watch some of the interviews. I would bet that they're probably former law enforcement or something, because they kind of similar to Chris and that we had in the first 2 episodes, where they have this cadence to them, and they have a direction where it's not completely obvious, but if you're listening to the way they're asking things and in the order in which they're asking them, there's a purpose, there's a rationale behind it. It's interesting.
And they keep him on track, and they get him back on track.
They're trying to take the interviewee down the path.
And when he starts to get too far off, they'll kind of they probably have passed law enforcement or worked in like police stations as a body language expert or something like that. Yeah,
a consultant.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, they're definitely and if you listen, you can tell the destination where they're trying to get to, and in many cases the interviewee is just like, oh yeah, man, we're just talking.
But if you listen to Don Wells in that clip, right, you would think that this area where he lived it was just filled with like moonshiners and meth cookers, the Bloods and the Crips of the hillbillies, I believe he said. But
I will say that is kind of a thing. Who was it? Clam, was it you? I can't remember. Somebody was in the chat Friday that lived in the country, and there was a meth lab that was busted right by them. And that same exact thing happened to us probably like maybe 10 years ago. There was a guy that lived down the road and got busted for a meth lab. So I feel like that's not unusual for them to kind of, move their quote unquote business to the country because they think that they're less likely to get found out.
That was a good quote.
It's like he had that ready or something.
Yeah.
But Sheriff Ronnie Lawson, the sheriff of Hawkins County, he told Action News 5, quote, "I've heard rumors that maybe there is a drug dealer on that road, but it's just like anywhere. Ben Hill Road isn't any different than any other road in Hawkins or any other county or even Knox County. We all have drug problems, but no, that's not that problem. That's not correct either. No, it's a dead-end road, so there's very little traffic, if any," end quote. So I think what Don was trying to say, he wasn't trying to say there's like actual traffic, like cars. I think he meant like when there's something going on, which is what he said. Yeah, when there's stuff going on, there's a lot of traffic, meaning like when there's a buy happening or a drug deal happening, then there's a lot of traffic. But I mean, in general, this area of Tennessee is full of drugs anyways. It's very well known that there's drugs all over the place. But I guess what the sheriff is trying to say is like not there any more than any other area. Like there's not this drug house that we know about. There's not these like as Don was trying to kind of say like, oh, the boys and they're all related and they're the Bloods and the Crips. There's not like this huge like gang, the Sons of Anarchy just hanging around on Ben Hill Road, waiting to capture Summer Wells. And I'm not even sure why drugs would automatically be connected to the disappearance of a 5-year-old girl in anyone's mind.
Well, I mean, it could if there was a drug house.
I mean, I think partly because of the history of Dawn and Candace. Hold on, guys. What is your matter? Come here. I know. Come here. You can't scratch my chair, baby girl. That cat is so vocal.
That was in the area, what you'll have is you may have people from outside that community coming in there, picking up their drugs and leaving. And so this opens up a whole new group of individuals that are potential suspects where they're coming in and going out very quickly. And it's harder to track them because essentially they're only coming there for a few moments and then leaving. And yeah, in that situation, could one of them had seen Summer playing outside one day as they're passing through? Of course. But what the investigator's saying here is, listen, there might be something that goes on in that area where it might be a transaction here and there, but there's not any known drug houses in that community where they would have a purpose to be driving up and down Ben Hill Road to get their methamphetamine, to get their weed, to get whatever. So the way it's being depicted is not accurate. It's not an accurate depiction of what the area actually is.
Even if they were driving up and down Ben Hill Road, how would they see Summer playing outside? They wouldn't see Summer playing outside unless she had gotten down to that road. Once again, we've gone over this multiple times. Even in the fall, you can't really see up to that house, even when the foliage is less dense. So, like I said, yeah, I was thinking maybe Don and Candace owed some drug dealers money and maybe the drug dealers like took Summer as collateral. Otherwise I don't see why a drug dealer would randomly hunt down a child to take her unless, like you were saying, it's someone that's addicted to drugs who might want to take Summer and like maybe sell her for money for more drugs, or they're just a nefarious scumbag and they like little girls. But the more we expound on this theory, the more far-fetched it gets, because we would then have to believe that a random drug addict knew where to find Summer and knew someone who would give them drugs or money in return for a little girl, which like there's a whole network of things happening here. Like you always say, the simplest answer is usually the right one, but none of these answers seem all that simple right now. I'm not feeling super hopeful that Summer will ever be found or that we'll ever know what happened to her. And I really don't see how this drug angle plays in, even if there were a ton of drug deals happening in that area. They're not happening in a place where any of those people would know about Summer unless they wandered up that hill towards her house and saw her playing there one day. And like we were saying earlier in the episode, became obsessed with her, kept coming back to that area, waiting for their moment.
I
But
mean,
then once again, I feel like you'd see the same.
that could totally happen because there was that case, not too long ago, and I can't remember which child it was, but there was a case where they had outside help come in, like a plumber or something like that, and that ended up being who came. They saw the kids while they were there doing the work, and they ended up coming back and taking one of the kids. So, or I don't know if it was a family that only had one child, I can't remember, but I do remember the scenario was that they worked there and then came back at another time. Shar, thank you for becoming a subscriber. Welcome.
Same vehicle in the area over and over again, and that would be reported on. Some neighbors might say, hey, we've seen the same red truck or the same black car that was parked at the bottom of the road that leads up to Summer's house several times leading up to her disappearance. Maybe that has something to do with it. It's just not really a crime of opportunity situation where that house is located. That's all I'm trying to say. So what's your final thoughts?
Preface it by saying shot in the dark. This is just me based on listening to the last 3 parts, looking at the interviews, kind of just digesting what we do know, and mainly going off of that video, that short little video of Summer sleeping in the back seat, because I believe that to be credible and truthful, and it seems like that was actually what was taking place. It looks like the grandma thought it was a photo and it was actually a video. I believe all that. So my guess would be Don is not directly involved. Don was at work. I think the truth lies with Candace, and maybe even potentially her mother, her grandmother, who was on the property, who appears to have kind of separated herself from Candace. Correct? You had told me that. I don't know if that was on camera or off.
Yeah, I told you that off camera. Yeah, she left the state.
Yeah, she's kind of separated herself. I feel like the truth lies with Candace, and I feel like the truth, whatever happened to Summer, happened on that property within a certain window of time before Don get home. I really feel like Don is out there chasing his tail, and that's not me painting him as a victim at all. I can't say it enough. Not a fan of Don. Focusing on this situation, I feel like there's also been some dissension between those two. I've seen a couple comments from our people where he has said some things passively, like, I don't know if she knows more or whatever. It doesn't sound like whatever happened is a united front there. I feel like Don's going off what Candace has told him, but based on Candace's behavior in these interviews and how spaced out she can look in some of them, I feel like there's a lot running through her head, and I think she knows more than she's told law enforcement so far. It could have been an accident. I'm not going to go as far as speculating whether it was an accident or intentional, but I do feel like the truth lies with Candace and maybe her mother, and that might explain the separation between the two. Her mother might have looked out for her daughter, even though she didn't agree with what happened, just because she didn't want to see her daughter go to jail.
So I've always said from the beginning,
I was so into this case when it first started.
Before any of this information came out early on, when this was happening a year ago, at the very least, the most benign solution or the most benign answer is there was more than 2 minutes that Candace had her eye off Summer, right? I've always said that from the beginning.
Agreed.
There much longer, I think, right? So just like the going into the grocery store for 5 minutes, 2 minutes having your eyes off her and something happens, not a realistic time frame, which leads me to believe it was probably far longer. I don't know what Candace was doing in the meantime, but this definitely could have given Summer the opportunity to wander off. I think it's more likely that she wandered off than somebody came up on the property and took her. I just think it's far more likely that she wandered off. None of the dogs barked. Like, no dogs were running at some strange person climbing up there.
It really bugs me that people keep bringing up the dogs. I'm telling you, there's times that if my dogs are outside, I ignore their barking because sometimes they're literally just barking at the wind or something. If you have that many dogs, there's always going to be a time when one of them is barking at something, especially with the deep woods there and everything. They hear a crack or something walking in the woods or whatever, they're going to start, hooting and stuff. But I just don't believe that that is a good reason to think that, nobody was around because they didn't hear the dogs barking or whatever. I personally can tune my dogs out when they're barking at nothing.
None of the boys saw anything or heard anything, allegedly. Grandma and Candace didn't see or hear anything. You would have heard a car, pulling up. If they pulled up the driveway, you would have heard the car. You would have saw the car, something. None of that happened. So we have to assume that if somebody took Summer, they took her down that path through the woods, right? That's the only way, down to the street where a car would have had to have been parked.
I don't know. I kind of liked Brando. I think we should call her Brando.
Waiting either with somebody else in there or just parked and waiting for the person to come back. Split second. You didn't hear Summer scream. The police are saying that scream that the neighborhood was unfounded, not connected. So it would have had to have been a very split second. They would have had to come up, grab her, put their hand over her mouth and run. Unless it was somebody she knew. And, Don did
All right, guys, I'm going to put a poll in.
say in the behavior panel interview, he thinks maybe his sisters came and took Summer because they were worried about him molesting her. He mentioned that the day after Summer went missing, his sisters, his half-sisters or his stepsisters, they had called the police and told the police, hey, we know what happened to Summer. We believe that, she was hurt by her father. And he said maybe they came and kidnapped her and stole her to keep Summer safe. I don't think that's a very plausible theory. That would be crazy. I think by now they would have said something to the police and said, hey, we have her. But who knows? So if it was somebody Summer knew, maybe they would have been able to say, hey, Summer, come with me, et cetera, without much noise or hassle. But otherwise, I think that Candace had her eyes off of Summer for much longer than 2 minutes. Summer may have wandered away. Very similar to the Dior Coons case. If she wandered away, there are a lot of things out in that Tennessee wilderness, that forested area that's around her house. There are bears, there are poisonous snakes, things like that. But you still would think that some sign of Summer would have been found once the police showed up and the helicopters came in and the scent dogs came in, that they would have picked up her scent somewhere in the wilderness, even if she had been attacked by a wild animal. So I'm not really sure, but I know for a fact, allegedly, don't come for me, this is just what I think, for a fact that it was way more than 2 minutes that Candace didn't see Summer for, and anything could have happened, and it throws the whole timeline off at this point.
No, I agree. And that's where I'm getting at. I think there's something more there, which may explain why Candace is saying it was only a couple minutes, because maybe it was a couple hours. And maybe there's this internal guilt that if she had been more present, if she had checked on Summer sooner, none of this would have happened. And it could be as simple as, like you just said, she wanders off into the woods and something gets her, but that wouldn't have happened. I said this, I think, last episode. There's still a level of responsibility there that falls at the feet of Candace. This is a sign of neglect. It's a sign of not paying attention, not being present. And she has shown other examples of that. So I hope for her sake, and I hope for everyone's sake, that is what happened, where it's just something where she wasn't paying attention, and it's not more on the line of some of the...
The fact she's 5, I would say, she wasn't watching her closely enough either, because she's only 5 years old in that terrain and everything. I don't think that's what happened, but if she were to walk off into those woods, she probably could get lost. There's wild animals in those woods. It could have ended very badly if that is, that she took off by herself into those woods. In that area, I think it could be very dangerous. They wouldn't even let volunteers help search for her because of the terrain.
Scenarios you gave tonight, because that's just absolutely the worst, and you try to believe the best in everyone. So I hope that's not the case, but for everybody involved, I hope we get some answers soon, one way or another, because at the end of the day, right now, she's still out there. I know you had said that you don't have a lot of hope she'll ever be found, and I don't blame you. I can see where you're coming from, but you gotta hope. You gotta hope that we're wrong and that there's something we don't know. And God, would I love to find out that she was taken by a family member because of possible abuse. That would be not the right way to go about it, but would be a nice turn of events in the story to find out that Summer's still alive and well. So I hope for everyone involved, we get some answers soon, because I know this was a case that captivated a lot of people, and there's a lot of you out there that are watching on YouTube, listening on audio, who are really, really focused on this case and really involved in it. I got a lot of DMs from you guys about this case, really passionate about it. So we're all parents. This is everyone's worst nightmare, right? So hopefully we get some updates and there's some good ones sooner than later.
I just feel like it's going to go the way of like a John Benet Ramsey kind of case, where there's so much speculation, so much rumors, but you can't prove anything. And you literally go, every single day for the rest of your life not having the exact answer. Because at this point, somebody would have to confess. And what's their motive to confess if the police don't even have enough to make an arrest, right? There's no motive for them to confess besides morality and being a good person. And I think that ship has sailed.
Only hope we have is that it was more recent and that we hope the FBI and the TBI did a good job of preserving any evidence that was found, maybe something that they can use later to connect it to someone. Wishful thinking, but we do appreciate you guys sticking with us for these last 3 parts. We'll have a new case coming to you next week. If you want to go check out Criminal Coffee, we're coming near the end of the month. You can actually start weighing in the comments below if you want, on our social media and on our YouTube channel. If there's certain organizations or families in need that are currently going through a situation where they're involved in an investigation or need funds for a certain tool or technique or tactic that we can maybe help with, we're going to be donating very soon. We want you to be part of that. So check out criminalcoffeeco.com if you want to learn more about it. Follow us on social media at Crime Weekly Pod. And we will see you guys next week. Be safe. Have a good weekend. And we will talk to you soon.
Thank you guys. Bye.
The links, guys, are in the description, but I am putting Crime Weekly up in the chat if anybody wants to follow. They're really good. I really like both Stephanie and Derek. So there is the link for their podcast. And then Stephanie's link is also in the description. All right, so I'm going to pull up just a short video. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Hold on. Just a short video of Foodie from just saying.
But we're just naturally weird,
Let me know if the sound is not okay.
Totally yikes.
Smash it. Smash it good. Did it taste like pickles, Lilith? Why is it's always her videos in some way, shape, or form that will not load right?
I love herbs. I quit smoking, by the way.
She quit smoking. I thought we had just seen a thing where she was smoking.
Ready, set, but we're just naturally weird, Totally yikes. I love herbs. I quit smoking, by the way.
I feel like the rice is going to increase, Lilith, because she quit smoking. She's going to replace it with extra rice.
No one cares! Looking mighty handsome and fresh. Fresh.
Yeah, just take a shower. Fresh. Yo, Bezos, how you doing?
You guys, he has gone downhill since
this
relationship.
It's nice to see you, Bezos.
Oh yes.
Oh yes. I still get shy around him, like pathetic.
Potato face.
Everyone do the potato face emoji.
Exactly.
Maybe
exactly
eyebrow?
Grateful Life.
Yeah, the eyebrow. Okay, guys, let's dig in. Let's see here. So first I have fries.
Talking like
and
it's crazy.
a chicken sandwich that has chicken. I'll show you what's on it in a minute.
And she has fries there, and then a sandwich. So there's it's complete carbs, total carb overload. So then she's gonna crash and not do a single thing or move after this meal.
And we also have no way, Golden Girl. She really did choke and do that on camera. Really? I thought Harry was choking.
was joking because it's like not only am I fat and you had to beat on my back, but like I choked on a potato and shit my pants and almost like died in front of you, like.
And this is micheltet. Micheltet, it's like a flaky dough stuffed with like, it's like cheese, vegetables, mortadella, olives. Middle Eastern people will know what that is. So, let's dig in. Oh my gosh, I'm so hungry.
For now, Daisy.
At least she's honest, I guess, about that. I used to be open about things like that. If that happened to me, what happened to Amber, I would have told you guys. Now, I'm private. Thomas man. See how it's like a flaky dough? Oh my god. Sorry, I'm so hungry. What do I miss about Canada? Sam, BBJ, sometimes villa abusing, but my family. They weren't easy.
So somebody did ask yesterday if they could see the beach, and she totally ignored the comment. If these, I don't even feel like they're curtains. I feel like they're sheets. If they are over the window where you see out to the beach, then what was the whole purpose of getting a apartment that overlooks the beach? And second, could you at least iron the dang curtains?
I'm giving up, but I had to make a decision. I do want to start a health journey. We're setting up a mukbang area so we can do things together too. Working on that. And I'm gonna like cook a good dinner for us every night, and I'm gonna make it content. You know, I gotta cook, gotta eat well. I have to do it. I'm almost 40. I have to quit the shisha. So I'm working on, you know, personal things as usual. I can do some live stream cooking sometimes. Cook healthy things. You guys can help me with ideas. What time is it? 3 in the morning. Because during the day, it's so hot. Okay, so hot. So we mostly do things like after the sun sets. So we don't sleep. We don't go out during the day usually. Like sometimes, but it's so hot here now. You don't want to be out between like 10 and 4. I miss my llama. Smell like ear. Tape your phone to a drain rat. We don't have rats.
This is her llama. Of all the things she could miss, she misses the llama.
He uses his eyebrow to fly around. It's a super brow. I do bathe. Like people think I don't, but mostly joking around. We must get on the health journey. I need to incorporate more fasting. I love it. You feel so like depleted. You feel like skinty. Do you know what I mean? You feel good. You feel like somehow more energized.
Any progress is a progress.
Yeah. So many good diet recipes. I'm gonna get like a plate, portion control it. I want to do videos like well thought out, well put together videos. I want to do things that can sort of help people now in life. Like I feel useless. I only eat once a day. Oh really? Like a big meal? I like that. And then eating like small things.
Listen.
Oh, you know what? I was afraid of that. Hold on. It's because my earbuds died. Hang on, I'll get it. Okay, hopefully this works. Let me know, Lilith. Nope. We might have to restart the video. If I don't get it, guys, I'll probably just end because I was going to end after this anyway, but Yeah, I can't get it fixed, guys. It's not working. Yeah, it's not coming in. I'm just going to end it though, guys, because I would have ended after this. Anyways, I still have the pickle taste test to do. My daughter really wants to do it with me, so that's what's holding it up. Either she has plans or I'm busy, so we haven't gotten a time where it works out. But we will. Maybe tomorrow, since I'm not scheduled tomorrow. Anyway, thank you guys. Thank you, Grateful Life. Thank you for hanging out with me today, guys, and watching. Oops, I didn't even finish the poll. Let me see where the poll led us. Okay, so it looks like the house tour wins. So Wednesday, we will do the Summer Wells house tour. You too, Lilith. Love you guys. You're welcome, Daisy. Everybody have a great day and a great start to their week. I'll talk to you guys later.